leader thanks to his win at Rockingham and a battery of solid finishes. Dale Jarrett has posted back-to-back wins at Daytona and now takes aim at the three-peat, a feat last accomplished by Cale Yarborough in 1968. It's an old-fashioned All-American flag-waving 4th of July celebration. And now the race begins to see who.
What's that? Well, they're pulling a fan from the crowd to wave the flag, and they're
Okay, Bob, do your best. If I should nod off at any time, don't forget to wake me up.
The year 2000 may mark the debut season for the Grand American Road Racing Association. But tonight, the cars, the drivers, have come to Daytona International Speedway with history on their side. After a 14-year absence, welcome to an Independence Day holiday sports car tradition, the revival of the Paul Revere 250. Good evening, everyone. Welcome live, very late in the evening, to Daytona International Speedway. I'm Bob Barsha, along with David Hobbs, who has driven in the old Paul Revere 250. Welcome in front of a massive crowd to what should be a great sports car event. The command to start engines has already come. 43 cars in no fewer than 24 different mechanical combinations are down on the pit road, preparing for 70 laps around this 3.56-mile racing circuit, combining the NASCAR Oval and the infield road course. David, great to see the return of the Paul Revere.
Absolutely fantastic. I first drove in this race in 1977. The last time I drove in it was the last time it was held 4 cars back in 1984. And it certainly didn't look like this here at Daytona in those days. I mean, Daytona was pretty impressive when I first came to it in 1962, but boy, it is incredibly impressive now with about 27 million candle power of lights around this racetrack. It's very much light than it was in my day, but it's still a bit gloomy out there in the infield.
Cars look absolutely spectacular as they roll off under these amazing lights. Now, of course, this is the second race for the Grand American Road Racing Association here at Daytona. They began the season at the Rolex 24, but using only 1/5 of the candle power of this amazing lighting system. Tonight, the lights are up to 100%, but as David mentioned, the cars will still need their onboard headlights in the infield portion. And now that the field has rolled off, Let's take a look at our Informix starting lineup. On the pole for the first time this year will be the Informix Software 74 Ranch Resort Judd, Riley, and Scott in the hands of Jack Baldwin, who will share with car owner George Robinson. Alongside James Weaver in the Dyson Racing Ford, Riley, and Scott with Norcold, Bedford, and Goodyear sponsorship. Weaver is the Drivers' Championship leader. He'll share with Andy Wallace. On row 2 will be the Rizzi Competizione Ferrari 333 SP in the hands of Milo Schiatarella and Ralph Kellners. Alongside Elliott Forbes Robinson, sharing with Rob Dyson and John Paul Jr. in the second Dyson Racing entry. On row 3, the Doran Lista Racing combination Ferrari chassis with a Formula One derived V10 Judd engine. Ross Bentley and Didier Tays will handle that. Next to them, the TRV Motorsport Chevy Riley and Scott for Tom Volk and Jared Schrader. On row 4, the hybrid racing Ford, Riley, and Scott, Mark Simo from Carlsbad, California, and Chris Bingham from Bellevue, Washington. Back on row 5, the pole sitters in our SR2 category, so they pick up an Informix Way Fast award. That's the Archangel Motorsports Services Nissan Lola for Larry Alberto and Ryan Hampton, undefeated in the SR2 category this year. As you take a look back down through the field, David, the mechanical diversity of this group is just spectacular.
It certainly is, and of course the rules and regulations are written in such a way that they try and make these cars as even as possible, and a lot of that is done through obviously weight, engine size, tire size, and of course the dreaded engine restrictor. All these cars have restricted air intake.
In the 21 spot will be the pole sitters in our GTO category, the big bore production-based cars, the Celine Allen Speed Lab Celine Mustang, an absolutely amazing machine. They lead that category. In the American GT category, the Spirit of Daytona from right here in Daytona Beach, Florida, Craig Conway and Doug Goad in a Chevy Camaro. And at the 24 spot, our GTU pole sitters from G&W Motorsports, Darren Law and Mike Fitzgerald in a Porsche GT3R.
Well, of course, we've got lots of variety, as we've already said in here. We've got 5 classes out there, the SRs, the SR2s, the GTOs, the GTUs, and of course the All-American GT cars. With very, very different speeds here, of course. In the old days at night, that made it difficult. Won't be quite so difficult now.
If there was ever a track where these cars could stretch their legs, this is it. On board the number 68. This is in the Sports Racer 2 category, a Pilbeam with a Nissan V6 engine in the hands of Brian Redman at about age 60 or so, still full of race.
Silly old coot.
Now let's go to one of our GTO competitors. This is the number 46 Dodge Viper in the hands of Eric Mesley. They will start in the 25 spot. How about a look at one of our GTU Porsches? Kevin Buckler and Phil Collin will share this Porsche starting from the number 28 spot of the 43-car field. Take a look at that 32-degree banking. On board now with the American GT. These are 2 frame cars, very much like the SCCA Trans Am cars. Craig Conway from right here in Daytona Beach, Florida, starting in the number 22 spot. Each of our pole sitters in our 5 categories will pick up the Informix Way Fast Award, $1,000 to each of the class leaders, to the overall pole sitting team, $2,500. Now as the field makes its way around, one more pace lap to the green flag. Let's meet our pit reporters for tonight's event, beginning with John Bizignano. Biz?
Well, thank you very much, Bob. You know, every time these teams come to a combined oval circuit road racing infield, the team managers and drivers have to roll the dice as far as the setup goes. That all-important downforce, which is required in the infield, causes drag and will kill straight-line speed on the high-banked ovals. And this weekend, the team managers and drivers even have a bigger problem because there has not been any weather whatsoever in practice and qualifying that's similar to the race conditions. So watch for a lot of changes within the cockpits and during the pit stops to get these cars right. Now, a last-minute drama is with Elliott Forbes Robinson in the number 20 car. They could not get the cars started when it came to go out for the grid. He will be starting dead last. Now let's go to Sandy Hang with some more updates.
Well, there's several major developments that are going to be impacting tonight's race. This is one of them. This is the nose of Phil Creighton's Lola. They are not on the starting grid. Scott Schubert, Butch Leitzinger won't be driving. because they've developed an intermittent electrical problem, the sensor that goes to the throttle. They can't quite figure it out. Also, check out the Ferrari. There's been some changes in the restrictor that I'll explain a little bit later, but it's going to bring parity to that class and some tighter racing tonight. Also, Sports Racer 2, Larry Oberto with the Archangel Motorsports car, he's had a sinus problem, and we may be watching to see a driver switch in that car quite early. And in the AGT class, we cannot forget the spirit of Daytona. Craig Conway and Doug Goad, they have a new suspension. They've changed the geometry in that car. They're dealing with an all-new car, and that could provide some surprises for us later, guys.
All right, thank you, Sandy, and thank you, Biz. As you see the cars up on the banking, warming up the tires, and we should mention that we have a tire war going on. Goodyear, Avon, Pirelli, several of the world's major tire manufacturers represented. And some of those tires are going to take a pasting on this 3.56 mile circuit. David, let's take a look at the map.
Well, of course, this is a very tricky circuit. As you can see, you really have to, as Biz said, you have to adjust for very high speed around NASCAR's 3 and 4. And of course, the infield there, you've got 3 real tight corners there. The international horseshoe, which is obviously pretty self-explanatory. Then right up in the top there, tucked under NASCAR's 1 and 2, a very tight right-hand hairpin going down back towards ourselves. Then as you turn left up onto the bank, you really want to have a good exit there, so you've got to have good traction here all the time, which means springing it for good soft traction on the infield. But then when you get up on those high-speed banks, you need some pretty stiff springs to hold the car up. So it's really very difficult to get a good setup here in normal conditions. Yesterday it rained heavily, their practice was all messed up by the rain, and it was very hot during the day when they were doing most of their practice. They never got a real good crack at night. This is the first really good dry track they've had, and of course they've got the lowest temperatures they've had. So a lot of things are going to be different tonight as to what they had in practice. On board now with Brian Redmond, the Cock of the North, one of the most successful and unsung drivers of all time, Brian Redmond, and here he is back in pro racing again.
Well, I tell you what, Sunday afternoon races can be about spectacle, they can be about competition, they can be about commerce and lots of other things. But the Paul Revere 250 since 1967 has been about fun. Running late into the night, just about the time Paul Revere made his famous midnight ride. And now it's time for us to go racing. The green flag is in the hands of the flagman. The safety car is off. And down to the line they come to begin 70 laps. The Paul Revere 250 is back.
Wow, there was some good overtaking going into turn 1 there. A lot of scrambling for position.
Whoa!
Turn 1 very tight. Already somebody off. That's the number 37 car.
That's the Interscope Racing Lola.
Oh.
That car being shared by Dale Whittington and John Field this weekend. Obviously some contact down there in 1 just as they pass from the bright lights down into the shadows. Engine is still running, but he appears to be having a little trouble getting a gear. Meanwhile, the field streams through the infield, heading down toward the second hairpin. A lot of tire smoke down there. Interesting car there at the end, the 04 car, running in the American GT category. That is a former Busch Grand National car. Ran at the Glen in the NASCAR Busch race just last year. Meanwhile, up front, Jack
pretty
Baldwin.
tough going up there at the front on the first lap of a 70-lap race there, as they really nailed each other going into that last little left-hand front of the banking.
James Weaver started the Dyson Racing number 16, Ford, Riley, and Scott. Jack Baldwin is in that Judd-powered Riley and Scott for George Robinson's team. These men, first and second in the Drivers' Championship, just 5 points apart, and they will do battle all night long.
Boy, trying to go through the chicane there side by side. Somebody missed the chicane. You see them going through the top. They must have picked up a position there, otherwise they didn't put back where they were.
Meanwhile, first and second flash up onto the banking. Let's take another look now at the start. Down there in 1.
There you get a great idea of the headlights as they turn into, whoa!
Not sure that was assisted. That might have been a cold tire spin.
I think it might have been, yeah. Unless somebody just tagged him at the back. If they did, we certainly couldn't see it in the blue, and nor could he.
Well, the 37 appears to be back on track. Meanwhile, we go on board with Brian Redmond, 3-time champion in the old SCCA Formula 5000 series. One of the most affectionately recalled series in all of open-wheel motorsports in America. And there you see a little of that speed differential we were talking about.
53 car there rocketing by him on the straight. Here we see that turn 1. You see it suddenly gets really dark here. They come up that very brightly lit. Even though Brian's got headlights, you can hardly see them from this onboard camera. So obviously there's a lot of difference here between the light. which plays up for these guys, especially when they start. Because normally you start a race here in the daylight and then race into the dark. To start in the dark is much more difficult.
With headlights on, I am not so sure that Brian Redmond doesn't have a problem. We'll take a break, sort it out, and be right back live.
It does, doesn't it? That's that Porsche, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is the 53 car then?
I don't have a 53.
I don't have a 53 either. Was it 58 that went by? No, 58.
That was 25 that went around.
Paul Revere 250 is brought to you by Informix Software. Wait a web.
Ryan doesn't have any headlights. You're probably right. It looked awfully gloomy.
We confirmed 37 is back and running.
Speed Vision's coverage of the Paul Revere 250 is brought to you by Informix Software. Wait a web.
Welcome back live to Daytona, where James Weaver continues to lead Jack Baldwin up front. Behind them, though, we have had a lot of interesting goings on. Let's go down to the infield and take a look at what happened just a few minutes ago to one of the cars starting towards the back. The number 25 GTO machine, started by Mark Montgomery from Daytona Beach, Florida. He's driving a Porsche 968 Turbo. Here's a look at what happened to him down there in the International Horseshoe. Remember, very early in the race, very slippery racetrack. Just ask Mark Montgomery to the right of your screen.
Very, very slick track, of course, not helped at all by all that rain. Of course, boy, nearly back right into those two cars. But they've had a lot of rain here. They haven't raced here since the 24-hour. So this track is very, very green, especially down there in the end.
In fact, we had a gully washer mid-afternoon. This, of course, is a part of the NASCAR Winston Cup weekend, and there was a question whether they were able to get qualifying in. Turns out that they were. Catch the action from the Pepsi 400 this weekend, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Speed Vision News Race Week. Right now, we've got a race on our hands. James Weaver leading Jack Baldwin. Great big Ford 5.5-liter V8 against that Judd Formula One derived V10 engine.
And there again, they get parity by those air restrictors. They have a different sized air restrictor, obviously, because the Ford has still got a lot more torque, being of much bigger cubic capacity, which gets him off those tight corners probably better than the Judd. But the big weapon the Judd has got has much better fuel consumption, which over a 250-mile race could help them on that second stop. They're bound to have to make they'll have to make two stops. That will obviously be depending on where the pit stops come, or the yellow flags rather. And the Judd might just get away with a much shorter second stop, because it will probably have to take a lot less fuel. Got good top end now. Cars, as you can see, very, very evenly matched. James Weaver leading, but only just.
Whoops, there goes the Interscope Lola around again.
Whoa! He's obviously finding the track very slick.
It's at the International Hairpin once again. Now on board with Brian Redmond. As we went to commercial break, it appeared as though he had no dashboard electrics, and I couldn't see any headlights. Right now, it's not slowing Brian down any.
I think he has got lights. I just watched him go by and looking out the window, which I know we're not supposed to do. He has got headlights, but they look pretty gloomy from on board, don't they, with that on-board camera. Brian's quick through the chicane there. Nissan engine, V6, 3-liter. Inside this Pilbeam car, Mike Pilbeam, an English designer who really makes cars mainly for hill climbing. Short dashes, frenetic dashes up hill climbs in England and Europe. But he's come up with this rather neat Sports Racer 2 design, and there's a couple of them here. There's a lot more in Europe, and I think we'll probably see some more here next year.
Brian Redmond won the 1976 Rolex 24-hour race here at Daytona, along with Peter Gregg and John Fitzpatrick in a BMW CSL. Hard to believe he's never driven the Paul Revere 250 before. Now let's go on board in the infield. You can see just how dark it is out there. This is on the number 46 GTO Dodge Viper. Eric Messley at the controls.
See, it looks like he doesn't have headlights either. It's obviously TV camera works on board the car, it doesn't look like they've got any headlights.
See the current order at the upper left of your screen. All sports racers, the featured class, open cockpit, the most powerful and fastest cars out here. Grand Am Racing.
Alberto and Hampton still leading. They were on the pole in that SR2 class and obviously maintaining a lead so far.
There have been 4 races in the Sports Racer 2 category for smaller, more nimble, but less powerful prototype open cockpit cars. Alberto and Hampton have won all 4 of those races thus far in this debut season for the Grand Am. High on the banking.
He's going well, going past Brian Redman there, our camera car on the left.
Meanwhile, the action continues on the infield and all the way around this 3.56 mile circuit. A great evening for racing here at Daytona, and we'll be back for more of the Paul Revere 250.
Oh yeah. Wow.
What
is that?
Oh, that's the Nesbitt car. Yeah, that's fine. You do it in real time? I'd do it in real time, I think. Okay.
Did the 20 car take his position on the grid, or did he start at the back?
Start at the back.
Huh?
I can't believe the 8 car never went out. That's incredible.
The what?
Okay.
No, Butch Lightsinger must be pretty ticked about that. Yeah.
Okay, we're coming back. Lots of charms to night racing anywhere, but particularly so with the sports cars of the Grand Am here at Daytona International Speedway. That is Bruce Nesbitt lighting up the tires as he gets on the brakes, downshifting, all that raw fuel igniting as it comes out of the exhaust. Spectacular. Now, one of the goals of the Grand Am this year was to revive some of the great names in sports car racing. Tonight, the Paul Revere 250. Saturday, July 22nd, another one. It'll be the Road America 500 from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. You'll see it on the 22nd here on Speed Vision at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Now let's get down to the pit lane. John Bizignano is standing by with one interested spectator. John?
Well, Tony Stewart is very interested in what's going on. First of all, Tony, congratulations on a great 7th place qualifying for the Firecracker 500 coming up, 400, excuse me. What do you think of these kind of cars? Would you enjoy this type of motor racing?
Well, I've always enjoyed all forms of racing. You know, we got done racing at Sears Point and had a really good run there. I've run real good at the road courses that we ran, but never really had an opportunity to run a sports car. So the main reason I was coming down tonight, Jared Schrader is my IRL driver, and he's running today. And we get to see John Paul again. I haven't seen him since we ran in the IRL together. So, you know, when racing's in your blood, you can't stop. I didn't even take time to go back and change clothes. I just wanted to come out and see these guys and just see what it was all about. This is the first time I've really been exposed to road course racing.
Sometimes there's always rumors about you in Formula One and interest in Formula One. Tell us about that.
Well, let's put it this way. I haven't changed my phone number yet. Nobody's called, but you know, I don't know if I'd be interested in Formula One, but I'd like to run a 24-hour race here. I think it'd be really neat. It'd be neat to see get a 24-hour race at Indianapolis now. They got the new road course there too. So I think this series would be a really good series to take up there.
Best of luck this weekend.
Thank you, Biz, and thank you, Tony. Here's a look at the Pepsi 400 qualifying. As John mentioned, Tony Stewart right there in the number 7 spot. Dale Jarrett and Ricky Rudd, the Robert Yates Ford teammates, will start on the front row. Good run for Bill Elliott. Very good run for Dave Blaney in his Pontiac. Mark Martin, always a force here at Daytona. Ward Burton having a great season. Jerry Nadeau, good run for him in his Chevrolet, the highest ranking of that brand. Jeff Burton and Elliott Sadler with a good run as well for the Wood brothers. Now there is the number 29 from Intersport Racing. We've seen their Lola combination on and off the racetrack
at all, are they?
Joe Field and John Miro.
John Miro.
They were sharing that car, running 12th where they went off, and they've been there for some time. Let's see what happened. Just kind of locked him up and spun off.
Just tagged the barrier.
And you can see,
all that water coming out. Yeah, we've got a lot of water.
Yeah, that's not a high-tech water barrier. That is decidedly low-tech with lots of rain.
And that has brought out a full course caution, so the pace car will be out, and these guys will be packing up behind the pace car. But it was interesting to hear Tony Stewart there. I think Tony Stewart, quite honestly, in a Formula One car, would be dynamite. You know, give him a few laps, I think it'll be really, because he's the sort of guy that races anything. I mean, I'd love to see him in a Formula One car.
Well, you and I have talked about this over and over the years, about the days when drivers would cross series. We've seen NASCAR Winston Cup guys in the Rolex 24 running sports cars. And over the years, the great Formula One drivers of the past, the Jim Clarks, the Graham Hills, they crossed over to other series.
Of course, Mario Andretti won the Daytona 500 here
Absolutely.
back in 1969, 67.
67. Caution flag is out all the way around Daytona International Speedway. James Weaver remains on the point. We'll take a break and return with more live as the Paul Revere 250 continues.
Yes.
Well, you're going to see stops now. We see teams in the pit lane.
Right.
We see several. I'm going to run to the 26.
Where is, what's going on down here? Is that where he's off?
Yeah.
He's off. I thought he was off.
No, he went straight on at the International.
Does anyone see 0-0 on the track?
We'll look for him. Nobody heading for the pit lane yet, so you got time. Safety car is in NASCAR 3.
I'm at, yes.
Oh boy.
What?
Somebody passed the leader on the pace car. Was that 6, that black car that went up high as we... No, I don't think that's what I saw.
TRP Racing, Gary Tiller and John Macaluso.
I'm sorry, say again, please, Greg. Okay, car pitting. And it's Weaver, I think, isn't it? Yeah, leader in. Okay. Back at Daytona here on Speed Vision. Full course caution is out and the race leader is in. Down to John Visignano.
Well, Weaver has brought the car in, and the car is absolutely in perfectly good shape. What they want to do is try and get ahead on the fuel. Right now, they've had a lot of work on their fuel consumption with these Ford motors. They believe they're over 4.3 miles to the gallon. This could be a real tactic, a very successful tactic, if the yellow flags continues. Right now, they are in very good shape fuel-wise. This is exactly what they wanted to have happen early on in the race.
And I spoke with Jack Baldwin and George Robinson this morning, and they know that a lot of hard work by the Lozano brothers down in San Antonio, Texas, has gone into these Ford motors. They were expecting a splash-and-go situation late in our most recent race at Mid-Ohio, but the Dyson guys never stopped, so they know that the Dyson guys are going farther now.
Well, that's going to make Jack Baldwin and his guys put their thinking caps on at this stage of the game as well, because with their significantly better fuel consumption at this stage of the game, it's probably just a bit too early yet for them to try and get away with One stop.
Saw the 95 GRV Motorsport Chevy Riley and Scott. Now down to one of our top GTO cars. Once again, here's Biz.
Well, right now there's actually an early driver change going on here. Johnson was in the car and Borscheller is getting in. Borscheller has been the faster of the two during the limited practice and qualifying that they've had so far. This is a very early strategy. The driver, one driver must go at least 25%. And that has not happened so far on. They've changed all 4 tires, and they are having some trouble with the driver change. There's a lot of smoke coming out of the car right now. And actually, Borscheller has shut it off. We have a problem with the car that has won 4 races so far this year.
Well, these guys have been walking a high wire. They won the race at Lime Rock. In fact, they were on a 3-race winning streak that was snapped in our most recent race at Mid-Ohio, and they are having problems. They have had fire problems inside the car before. That was one of the problems they faced at Lime Rock. When Johnson tried to climb out, the crew pushed it back in, said, don't worry, we'll put the fire out. You stay in the car. Right now, it doesn't look like they're in complete control of that situation. Biz, what can you tell us?
Well, right now, we don't want to ask anybody what's going on, but what I can tell is that the back end of the car is full of smoke, and it's more than just tire or brake smoke. They had a fire at the last race due to refueling. Right now, those leaping flames that we saw there are not happening here. They have sprayed some extinguisher dust inside the car. They have opened up the hood to try and see if any oil line or a fuel line is causing this fire, but right now it's a bit of a mystery. We'll get the exact report back to you just as soon as possible.
All right, thanks, Biz. Meanwhile, we have smoke further down the pit lane as the Saline crew goes to work. That's the Speed Lab car, that team owned in part by TV star Tim Allen. You see the Home Improvement logo on the hood. Now they don't need a little more power, they need a little less heat.
Sure do, and there's a lot of smoke coming from down the pit there, and that's car number 16.
There's a situation on track. That car right there is accused of passing the race leader and the pace car. It's a number 6 SR2 chassis. Gary Tiller and John Macaluso sharing a Lola Nissan. Now there is James Weaver. The safety car is out ahead, and there he goes. And apparently Tiller thought he was being waved by, but it appears that is not the case. We'll wait to hear whether or not he's going to be penalized.
Bruce Nesbitt is into the pits down the 00 car. 37 car comes in. Boy, they've had some action already. That's the Intersport car.
There's the 00 car. We saw that big flame from their exhaust. This is a car built by Jack Roush in the heyday of his road racing efforts for the Ford Motor Company, including 9 straight victories in what was then the GTO division at the Rolex 24. This car, the 00, being campaigned by Paul Jenkins and Bruce Nesbitt, the Team Chicago Ford Mustang.
Brian Redmond's car also in the pit now, getting help there from John Bright, the co-owner of that car with Brian Redmond. Back to the board, did he just miss the pit?
John Bright's the man who prepared the Lola that Brian Redmond drove to win the 1981 IMSA Camel GT Championship. Well, Redmond sharing with Mark Smithson and Peter Owen, all from Great Britain.
Oh, they're taking the bodywork off.
Cars are meant to make racing affordable here in the Grand Am. Cars run for just a little over $200,000. Sandy Heng is there.
Well, they were insisting earlier there was not a problem, but they did notice some sparks. And I asked them if the dashboard lights were out. They said no. Now they brought it in, and they're not quite sure what this is either. They've cut the engine now. Not good.
Is that gasoline on the road?
That's what the crewman, I think, was kneeling over to figure out. A pool of something. Anything at this point would be no good.
Water would be one thing, gasoline would be another thing altogether. Oh, Brian, I wouldn't be sitting in there too much longer if that's gas.
Grand Am official comes over to have a look. tough situation for Brian Redmond. His first drive for a team he co-owns. That being Redmond Bright Motorsport. Great opportunity for a break. We'll take one and be right back. Stay with us. What can you tell us, Sandy?
You guys guessed it right. It is gas.
It is fuel?
Yeah, it is fuel. And maybe we could try to get an interview with Brian in here, depending on how long this delay is going to be. I don't know.
Apparently we're going to be
quite a long time, I think.
Lights are still on the safety car. There's
15.
That was the scene of the fire.
Hey, Sandy.
Yes.
You might want to ask Brian Redmond why David Hobbs calls him the cock of the North.
The what?
The cock of the North.
Look, I can't say that.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. You're a professional.
Yes, you can. And it's a very good answer, too.
That's right. And it's late.
All the children are in bed now.
Wait, are you okay?
We are back live at Daytona, the revival of the Paul Revere 250. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, John Bizignano, and Sandy Hang with you as we are preparing to go green, which we do on the infield here at Daytona International Speedway in sports car action. Beautiful look there at the lights all the way around this facility. The track has been cleared. We are ready to turn them loose once again. Saleen Mustang still in the pits. Biz, what's going on?
Well, they've been all through the car, and the biggest problem they can find, I think they have several actually, but the biggest one is in the drivetrain. There's a big problem down there, and some material was lying against a very, very warm gearbox, and that was where an actual fire started and broke out, was quickly put out by the crew. But right now they're trying to repair the fire damage and see if there's a mechanical problem in there that tore the material away.
Meanwhile, safety car pulls off. We're going back to green flag racing. During that yellow flag, the number 15 GTO Chevy Corvette from Kreider Motorsport caught fire in the pit lane. It has been extinguished. That car isn't going anywhere. Back up to speed. Jack Baldwin, now the race leader. To the left of your screen. Sparks flying off the back as that car leans hard on the right side of the banking.
Schiattarella in the Ferrari there, trying to. Looks like, whoa! Does it? Gets by him going into the chicane. Good move there. Schiattarella came off the banking, tucked under the ring of the Judd-powered Riley and Scott. Used the draft. It'll be interesting to see if he can pull out anything on this NASCAR's. Yeah, he is a bit D3 and 4, a little tiny bit.
Interesting comparison here. Two Formula One derived motors. The 4-liter Ferrari with 4 overhead cams, 5 valves per cylinder. V12, of course, and behind them, the V10 Judd.
As Sandy Hang said at the beginning of the program, the Ferraris have had their air inlet restrictor opened up just a little bit because they were obviously hurting compared to the big Fords and to the Judds, and it looks like the powers that be at Grand Am Racing got it just about right. Maybe they should go back
Well, they reckoned it added about 15 horsepower to that Ferrari, which after all is 7-year-old technology.
Somebody's spinning in the background there too.
Yeah, that's on the
top. It looked like one of the GTO cars.
The second hairpin. He is back on the way, although moving slowly as the field streams through the infield. Meanwhile, let's get more on Brian Redmond's situation with Sandy Hang.
Well, I'm now here with the team manager, John Bright. A little fuel there, but you don't think it's too serious, do you? Explain what you think happened.
What happened is we have a speed limiter button for the pit lane, and there's a malfunction, and it was causing a misfire while the car was out on the circuit going very slowly behind the pace car. So with the aid of a laptop, we've been able to disconnect or disarm that function.
And diagnose the problem, and he's back out there and running.
It's running fine now, thank goodness.
And I saw he gave you the thumbs up.
Thank you.
Yep, thank goodness for computers.
John Bright a pretty useful Formula 4 driver in his day, 20-odd years ago, but decided he hadn't got the funds to keep going in full-time professional racing and took to mechanicking. And look at this battle going into the chicane. Woohoo! One of the SR2 cars goes down.
A couple of SR2 cars there,
yeah.
several GTs.
Wow, passing there right in the middle of the chicane. These guys are hanging out. Actually, it's past most of their bedtime, certainly past my bedtime.
Now that's one of the GTU Porsches down low, the sports racers up high, and you see the speed differential. And that is a sports racer, a pair of sports racers actually. The red, white, and blue car with Lista sponsorship is a car they called the FUD, Ferrari chassis, Judd engine, designed by Kevin Doran, who shops in Pennsylvania. Vastly experienced crew chief and team manager who decided that the Ferrari power plant just wasn't going to get it done. So he put that V10 Judd in the Ferrari chassis. And that car runs really well. They won the round at Homestead earlier this year in the hands of Didier Taze and Mauro Baldi. And tonight Ross Bentley from Vancouver, Canada is co-driving with Didier Taze.
Currently lying 6th at the moment on the road after those pit stops in that caution period.
You see 4 sports racers leading the 5th place car. The leader in the Sports Racer 2 category, Larry Alberto and Ryan Hampton, undefeated thus far in 2000. Look at all this traffic on the infield.
That is mighty busy down there.
Now they make the turn onto the apron and then up onto the 32-degree bank.
Whoa!
Whoa, a spin there in the middle.
That's one of the SR2 cars, I believe.
Yep. And it spun around backwards. Can't quite make out the number.
Well, that's the 99 car.
That's the Larry Schumacher, Martin Snow Lola Nissan.
Whoa, and the 67 car spun there. We said this track was greasy. It is really greasy.
Oh, my. That's the Racers Group Porsche GT3R for Brad Wirtz and Robert Orcutt. GT3R, Porsche's latest contribution to the incredible history of the 911. An unmistakable teardrop shape. Of course, the flat 6 Porsche engine, non-turbocharged in the GTU category. These GT3Rs have been sold around the world for GT racing. Let's take another look. First, the 99 goes around.
I don't think he got help there. I think he just went on his own. Backs into the grass. Of course, you've got to remember the grass is still very, very wet, so these guys don't want to get too far in there because they might have a job getting out again. And then as he's busy trying to extricate himself there, the 67 car, yeah, he definitely did not get help, did he? He just looped it. Ooh, boy, oh boy, that was a close call with that GTO car following him.
Well, they have righted their ships and gotten going again. Let's take a break. We'll return with more live from the Paul Revere 250 here on Speed Vision.
It would be great if this thing showed us the class, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm on my way there now. We found the restrictor plate from NASCAR, and I'll do the comparison of what was changed. Yep.
I'm not sure what I'm seeing here. What's the number on the right? Speed?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, our timing and scoring doesn't differentiate between
Trouble with this
cars,
timing and scoring screen, you can't tell who's who without looking it up.
as I was saying. Who's involved in that battle? Who's in that GTU battle? Back there in 18th overall. Fitzgerald started that car, supposedly. Okay.
Is that John Morton in the 80 car? Who started that?
Gable.
Pretty close here.
Back live at Daytona. Here's a look at the onboard telemetry in Jack Baldwin's Riley and Scott Judd. On the right, speed going up over 170 as he comes on to the front stretch into the 18-degree dog leg of the tri-oval. Touching almost 178 miles an hour. And you see lateral G-force.
Look how it loses speed there on those brakes.
And now the car leans to the right. Lateral G-force measured on the bar.
Accelerates out the corner. Look how quick it picks up speed too. These cars very light and powerful. Down to the mid-40s for the International Horseshoe. Pretty tight corner, and as we've seen, very, very slick. And there's the sort of traffic he's got all the time. Everywhere you go, there's traffic. At every turn, that little left-hand sweep there, it doesn't look much, but it's a very daunting little turn, that. And this corner here is also slick, very tight, always inducing a lot of understeer here. Quick blast down to this last left-hander where we just saw the 99 and the 67 car spin off.
Baldwin running on Goodyear tires. Goodyear has several compounds and constructions available for the teams. Jack Baldwin told me they were not going to go to the softest compound. Even though you might expect that on a very slippery track, they were worried about tire wear. Chose to go with one of the harder compounds.
Right rear tire, of course, there's some sparks coming off of the chassis, just tips it around, weaving his way through the traffic, coming down to the chicane. He doesn't want to see that guy up high. That's where he wants to be, to turn into the chicane.
Meanwhile, Schiatarella in the Ferrari is running on the race lead. It's into the right of your screen.
So he's hanging right in there. Led briefly for a bit, as we saw, just after the restart. Took the lead going into the chicane, but Jack Baldwin's got that lead back.
Tri-oval. Down into turn one, back into the darkness. There are actually lights down there, but before bringing these cars here, Grand Am officials decided they would check to see whether or not the lights would get in the driver's eyes. Wally Dallenbach, former sports car racer, now NASCAR Winston Cup star, drove one of the pace cars around to see whether the lights bothered them. He found out that they did get in the driver's eyes down there in one. Oh, collision there between Schiatarella in the Ferrari
and James Weaver, I think, rushing through in the 16 car, who's come back after that pit stop when he changed tires. Lost a lot of track position, but has obviously wound his way through the field at tremendous speed and just nipped past Schiatarella there going into the chicane. I think they touched.
Absolutely, they touched, and hard. I am constantly amazed at how this Riley and Scott, now this is old technology by the standards of sports car racing, that Ford pushrod 5.5-liter V8 still gets the job done. It's just amazing. As you look at the Ferrari there, also somewhat dated technology as they rocket down that back stretch at 185 or so.
And of course, this is great for James Weaver because he made that tactical stop earlier on, and he's got plenty of fuel to keep him going for a long time now.
Ooh, up high, there's a problem. They tell the slower cars to stay low. Didn't happen in that case. One of the BMWs was up there on the racing line as the sports racers tried to come through. Now this is a pushrod V8 against that quad overhead cam Ferrari V12. The cars are equalized through the use of air restrictors. And with more on that, here's Sandy Hank.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, about how much is it? It is these two holes right here. It is 4/10 of a millimeter. That is about the width of my fingernail, and it will restrict the air. NASCAR does the same thing, except with a carburetor they use a plate like this. It's the same thing as running a marathon and sucking the air through a straw. A bigger straw, you get more air. Smaller, you know what? Makes it a little more difficult. But this is the change to the Ferrari.
All right, thank you, Sandy. All of the cars using those restrictors to some degree or another to equalize horsepower. That's the leader in the GTU category. Car number 81.
Is that Mike Fitzgerald who started that car?
Mike Fitzgerald sharing with Darren Law.
He was being pressed very hard by the John Morton Scooter Gable car, the number 80. G&W Motorsports Porsche GT3 R2. So obviously he's now lost that position to the 80 car. And, oh, he's done some damage. Now, he's got to be careful because he's got quite a long way to go on that flat tire. And if he goes too fast, it's going to do a lot of damage to the car, to the oil lines down there, oil radiators.
Let's see if we can figure out if the flat tire was a reason he went off. Here's a look. That's the car right there with that unmistakable spotted paint job.
Ooh. I think he tried to go round the outside of that car through that left-hand sweeper, which is pretty quick. And I just think he was a bit offline and probably lost it.
That was the American GT Chevy Camaro for Don Arpin and Anthony Puleo. Wrong place at the wrong time for Mike Fitzgerald. He heads for the pit lane. We'll take a break. The headlights continue to flash through the night here at Daytona International Speedway. Coming up on midnight, 52 laps to go. We'll be right back. Go look at the 20, he's up to 4th. Okay.
Who the hell's 96?
I don't have a 96.
Was a 96 right here?
Oh.
No, it's not. It's 95.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more like it.
Thomas, can you do a rundown and give me a list of the leaders in the other 4 classes other than Sports Racer? What?
Right, the 81 car having problems now. So the 80 car takes over the lead. That T car takes over the GTU.
Yeah.
94 comes in and goes behind the wall. So a retirement.
Yeah.
Who's?
Welcome back to live action from Daytona International Speedway as the Grand American Road Racing Association brings back the joy of sports cars here in the United States. We mentioned the Paul Revere 250 reviving a great sports car name, Road America 500, and wrapping up this inaugural season will be the 6 hours of Watkins Glen. This is the battle for second, the bright red Ferrari of Mimo Schiattarella. Kart champ car and Formula One veteran battling with Jack Baldwin. Ferrari against a Judd V10. Riley and Scott chassis for second place. James Weaver, the race leader, is about 4 seconds up the road.
James Weaver driving, as always, a very, very fast race and a very clever one too, making that pit stop earlier on in taking advantage of that caution period. So he is in pretty good shape. If these guys have to make a green flag stop now, that'll put him even further behind James than they are now. For him to be able to lead this race, having made that stop, change the tires, put the fuel in, obviously says a lot for the speed of that car. And if, as John Bizignano said, they've improved the fuel consumption of that Ford significantly from testing, boy, he's going to be in pretty good shape. Somebody off there, 2 people off.
It's down in the chicane on the backstretch. The 25 car, we've already seen a spin from them. That's the Broadfoot Press Racing Porsche 968 Turbo from Mark Montgomery. Appears he may have lost the fire, damaged the right front.
Done some damage here too to the front of the cars. He went across the grass, unless he ran into somebody.
You notice that last name on the driver's lineup, Gregg. That would be Simon Gregg, son of the late Peter Gregg, a former winner of the Paul Revere 250. And that was just a plain and simple door banging.
That was a plain and simple mistake. Huge mistake. try and overtake that car on the outside of that chicane.
Aboard the number 66 Porsche.
Kevin Butler and Philip Collin. Another GT3R Porsche from the Racers Group.
Off the gas, down for turn 1. Look how dark it gets.
At least you can see his headlights, which wouldn't be said for Brian Redmond from the 68 car earlier on, but
as you see, running third in class.
21st overall.
This is the national hairpin. Now watch this left-hand kink coming up. Very, very quick corner.
A little bit of a lift, but not much. And of course, these GTU cars have got less tire on the road than some of the bigger cars. But they have a bit less grip.
Meanwhile, in the pit lane, Mimos Giartalella brings in a beautiful number 12 Ferrari. That is the color a Ferrari should be.
Now, is this going to be, if this is a scheduled stop, this just shows how clever the Weaver team was, the Dyson team coming in earlier. Oh, he's been touched.
This is on lap number 23. Sandy Hank.
It is a scheduled stop according to the team manager. They will be taking on 4 tires and fuel. And as you can see, he's trying to clean up the vents there to make sure they get as much fuel in as possible. And right next to them is Larry Roberto, the Archangel Motorsports car. They are making a driver change at this point, putting Ryan. Oh, we've got a little bit of a problem here. One of the Archangel Motorsports team's tires blocking their exit. You can see now they are making the driver change. Ryan Hampton getting strapped into the cockpit at this point. We talked a little earlier about Larry having sinus trouble. He wanted to get out of the car, possibly his first opportunity, and this is it for them.
That Larry Alberto car there out in the pit lane a pretty good way when it pulled in front of the Ferrari, which made it very difficult for the Ferrari to pull out. These cars have got very little block during the turning circle.
There's a slap on the top of the helmet. Teammate Ryan Hampton, and they are back out. Viper West machine running in GTO. We'll take a break and return with more from Daytona International Speedway.
That field of Whittington car is in 5th after all those.
Darren, I would like to do a Darren Law interview if you would like. With
What do you got, Thomas? I'm sorry, say again, Greg. I was trying to do some business up here.
Is this leading the GTO, this 46 car?
Yeah.
It is?
Yes. According to Thomas, yes.
Yeah. I know.
Gonna come back on board here. Live at Daytona International Speedway, Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, John Bizignano, and Sandy Hang with you for the Paul Revere 250. Let's check into some of our other classes. This is the GTO class leader, the Team Viper West Dodge Viper. Hands of Eric Messley from Huntington Beach, California, and Marty Miller from Brea, California. This car had a chance of winning our most recent race at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, but they had problems with the rear end. Still limped home in second place. Working their way through the backstretch chicane.
He's leading the GTO class. He's in 12th position overall, and right behind him in 13th overall is the 09 car, the Spirit of Daytona, which is leading the 20 car.
20 car slow. Remember, this is the Dyson Racing car in the hands of Elliott Forbes Robinson that started at the back of the field, worked its way all the way up to third, and now moving slowly.
And in a bad place too, right between NASCAR's 3 and 4, so he's a long way from help. This could well lead to another full course caution.
There's the pit entrance at the bottom of your screen.
The Viper that we were just talking about, the GTO car leading the GTOs, coming to the pits.
GTO leader is in the pits. See if we get a driver change. This team was very confident coming into this weekend that they had the rear end problem solved. Now it appears they will change. Vesely will get out. Miller will get in. Fuel going in.
Trouble getting that fuel to the car.
It's leaning awfully hard on. I wonder if
I don't think it's still connected. I don't think he's pushed it in far enough yet to make it open.
Not getting fuel in the car.
No, it's
gravity feed fuel. It'll be a fairly slow process. There's the American GT leader as you join us at the top of the hour here. It is midnight in Daytona Beach, Florida, as the Paul Revere 250 continues.
Liquid coming out.
Here's the third place car, Riley and Scott Judd. John Bizignano.
Well, Jack Baldwin, who briefly led this race for a few laps, has come into the pits. They are not changing the driver. Jack is going to be a very, very quick man around this track. In fact, he felt incredibly comfortable with the entire setup early yesterday. He was fastest in one of the practice sessions, but right now they are taking a little bit longer. They have hope, and they are scooping an awful lot of grass out of the radiator area. He's definitely been off track at one point, but he got a very good pit stop out of his crew.
Thanks, John. We saw a lot of grass come out of the Ferrari when they stopped as well. On board the 09 Spirit of Daytona Chevrolet Camaro. First full season for this team.
I think they've got a problem. I think there's fluid coming out the front of that car.
Need a defroster as well. That's Doug Goat's view. Sandy Heng, what can you tell us?
Well, they've cut the engine right now, and yeah, they do have a problem. They are overheating, and the team is racing around, attempting. They've got the hose out, trying to cool this thing down. It's not looking good at this point. Todd Bliss is here, facing the engine.
Well, they have had a great run as they go to work under the hood. 5 races, 3 victories, 2 second-place finishes, 3 poles in this American GT class.
Ooh, look at all that water coming out. No, they're trying to cool it down now, but you can see how much steam there is in the car, by the way. It's misted up that windscreen from the inside there. Hot water running on the floor of the car. Not good for the Spirit of Daytona. Been so successful everywhere else in the country. They come to their own town and leading the class comfortably and have trouble. That looks like the 20 car being towed in without a full course caution, which is great.
Classic American hot rod. Chevy Camaro, 358 cubic inches, 12-to-1 compression. Coil over at the front, 3-link at the rear, 4-speed Jericho transmission. Right now, not working. Here comes the 20 car. Elliott Forbes Robinson, who stands third in the Drivers' Championship points coming into this event, behind James Weaver and Jack Baldwin.
And was having a tremendous run starting at the back after they couldn't get the car started. We saw that on the grid at the back of the got to the back of the grid. Was rocketing up to third, and then no sooner you get there than pulled off.
John Bizignano, what can you add?
Well, I can add the fact that Rob Dyson has been standing on the side of his pit for several laps, anxiously awaiting EFR. We had to inform them that there was a problem between turns 3 and 4, and they found out that the car had run out of fuel. Now, I was under the impression that they were all set up for a pit stop about 3 or 4 laps, actually, before he ran out of fuel. So there's definitely a radio problem, definitely a communication problem. between the pits and the cockpit. If they can get the car in here, everything else should be fine.
All right, thanks, John. The car is on its way to
down.
Exactly. While they're working on the 09, we've had a change in the leadership in the American GT category as Kenny Buff and Jerry Pyle have taken over the lead in their Chevy Camaro. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
So Weaver must have damn nearly a lap lead now.
God, he is just flying.
Well, I mean, they got that pit stop deal absolutely spot on, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they really did.
Got in, got back out.
I mean, everybody, how the hell he got back to the lead again?
I staggered. I just couldn't figure out how he was leading.
I wasn't looking for him at all. I just assumed when I said that blue car, yeah, they're 67 seconds in lead.
I thought that was still Schiatarella and Baldwin goofing around. Although that jagged gash on the nose of the Ferrari is...
Just so you know, guys, they cooled it down enough to look. They punched a hole in the radiator. He swerved to avoid someone, went off the track briefly.
Idea how many laps left?
We're working lap number 28, Biz. So we have 43.
So we're about a third of the way through?
42, 43 to go. Yeah. About a third. Yeah, they got it fired.
09, you heard that.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
To what?
I'll tell you, Stewart is still down here. Stewart is still down here. He has not left one lap out of this.
Welcome back under the lights. Early in the morning at Daytona International Speedway, the Paul Revere 250 traditionally ran around midnight. So it is this year. After a 14-year absence, the Paul Revere 250 is back. There is your race leader, James Weaver, who has to rank as one of the finest sports car drivers in the world, has a solid car under it, but what he is doing here is absolutely phenomenal. They got a perfectly timed pit stop, worked his way back to the race lead, and he is simply checking out on the field.
I'm still not sure. It caught me completely by surprise how he got back into the lead after making that early pit stop under the caution. He had lost so much track time that he must have absolutely rocketed through the field to get back into the lead. And then, of course, it just worked right into his hands because then everybody else made their pit stops on the green. And now James has got nearly a 70-second lead over second place.
There he is passing the GTO class leader. That's the Team Viper West car. Meanwhile, this is the American GT, the former class leader, the Spirit of Daytona, number 09. They got the overheating problem under control, got him started. Whoops, the 04 is off. Now this is an interesting case, one of two former Busch Grand National stock cars in the race. This one on bias-ply Goodyear tires, 358 cubic inch engine, 4-speed transmission, being shared by John Davis and Bob Hill. Now this team is here on a mission. This is basically a test for them. They want to become the first NASCAR stock car to finish the Rolex 24-hour race next spring. Let's take another look at what happened to him. Tire lock up there.
Locks up the rears going into the international hairpin, leaving an awful lot of rubber smoke there, spins back onto the track. Luckily, he has the foresight to put the brakes on to stop him rolling into the other traffic.
Running in the American GT category. He's got damage to the right rear. Yeah. That came earlier in the race. John Davis does a lot of his racing for charity, supporting children's charity. Meanwhile, Elliott Forbes Robinson's back in the pits. John Bisognano is with him.
Elliott, all kinds of problems. First of all, you couldn't get onto the grid. What was the problem early on?
Don't know what happened. For some reason, we weren't getting fuel, and the guys poured a little fuel in the injectors and started right up. And then the car was running great during the race, and then when I went in, ran out of fuel, I went to reserve. Nothing happened. No one was home.
They had been trying to call you in a few laps earlier. Is there a communication problem? Was the radio working? I know Rob Dyson was ready to go into the car.
No, they weren't sure when I was going to come in because my fuel gauge wasn't working, so I didn't know when I was going to run out.
And now there's another problem with the car. They can't get it started again.
Same thing as before, I guess. We're not getting fuel to the motor.
Lots of problems and a lot of lap down, guys.
All right, thanks, John. Meanwhile, this great battle continues between the Ferrari and the Riley and Scott Judd.
And of course, Jack Baldwin now only 5 points behind James Weaver going into this race. Of course, if Weaver was to win it, even if Baldwin was to come second, that gap would obviously increase a little bit, but still, Jack Baldwin being very, very, very competitive in this championship.
Saw some of the class leaders. Rich Grupp in the SR2 category, driving the number 62 car. One of the trusty old Jim Downing Kudzu Mazdas. Mark Messley leads GTO. Scooter Gable in the GTU category in Porsche. Onto the backstretch. Reaching top speed before getting hard on the brakes. Downshifting for the backside chicane.
See, those cones have already taken a pasting there on the apex of those corners and turning in point. Always got to make sure the other driver sees you when you try that outside pass coming off the chicane, because it's easy to get the car as you turn left there, gets thrown up the banking up towards the wall, and obviously you just let it go. But if there's someone trying to squeeze between you and the wall, not so good. There's the 37 car.
And this is for position. The 37 car was shown in third as Schiatarella comes by. Jack Baldwin just behind now. Tell how humid it is here this evening. Get those contrails off the ring as Baldwin slashing underneath in one.
Right. The 37 car of John Field here doing exceptionally well, because we've seen him spin at least twice, and there he was up in a good solid third position. So now slipped back to fifth.
This is the older version of the Lola B2K10 chassis. The team has a new Lola coming, hopefully for the Road America race. Now here's the whole sequence coming through NASCAR 3 and 4, down the front straight and into turn 1. First Schiatarella.
Boy, Schiatarella moving around on the road there, big time. Meanwhile, Jack Baldwin lurking in the background, tucks right in behind the John Field car there, uses a little bit of the draft, and then out brakes him. Look how close these guys get. Woohoo!
I'm not so sure they
touched there,
right
yeah,
there,
and it just got front end of John Field's car. Lucky that didn't push the front end of that car out, because although obviously hard on braking, it'd have a lot of weight onto the front wheels. There'd be a lot of weight would be on those fronts at the time.
So the Ferrari moves up into the number 3 spot. The Riley and Scott Judd into 4th. We'll take a break and return with more from Daytona. Don't go away.
Right next to each other. Hey, Booth, just one little thing. If you can pick it out on the Ferrari, there's definitely some damage on the nose of that car when he came in contact.
Yeah, where he hit Weaver in the back.
Yeah, if you can pick it up, which I think you can.
Yeah, we saw it during the pit stop.
There's no fluids leaking, but there's definitely some damage.
Yeah, Nesbitt just straight line.
And Weaver is set to come in. Wallace is already helmeted up and ready to go.
Now, why would Weaver be coming in now?
I have no idea.
He's already
stopped once. He must have
already stopped once, and the race is only an hour old. He shouldn't be coming back in.
Well, all I can tell you is...
Hey, Biz, did they fuel up? They did, didn't they? They put tires on the car, but they fueled it up too?
Yes.
So why would he be coming in?
I have no idea. I'll find out.
Unless just to get Wallace in the car, I guess. Maybe. Formula One promo, you say?
And the number 5 finally made it out after, I'd say, 45 minutes.
Oh, he did. Okay.
This is really fun. I'm having a great time down here.
Good. That's what we're here for, to have fun.
Sean, none of my cars are competitive right now. So I'm just hanging out I'm just going to hang out in the Robinson pits for a bit.
Yeah, there's the 7 that just went through the horseshoe with you there.
Sandy, you might move forward there. We got a car coming in right.
There was 62. That was your SR2 leader.
Alberlin's in if you want the BMW pit stop.
What's that car number, John?
50, 50.
50.
They are...
Hawaii, 50.
Great Formula One action coming your way this weekend on Speed Vision. The Grand Prix of France from Manicourt. Live qualifying Saturday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. And of course, live race coverage on Sunday at 7:30 a.m. All Formula One roads lead to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, September 24th for the revival of the U.S. Grand Prix on Speed Vision. Tonight we are reviving the Paul Revere 254 sports cars on board with Brian Redman in that Pilbeam Nissan V6. Powering through turns 3 and 4 on the NASCAR Tri-Oval. Whoops. Once again, the cones pay a price. Car number 11 has spun. That's in the chicane entrance. He was the leader in the AGT category. This is the Hamilton Safe Motorsports Chevy Camaro for Kenny Bupp and Gary Pyle. Florida drivers, the car doesn't seem to be any the worse for the...
He just had a big spin on braking into that chicane. As we keep on saying,
he squared off those tires a little bit.
Yeah, the track really is very slick tonight.
Let's take another look at what happened. That's for the telltale smoke.
Oh yeah, he left it too late trying to overtake that slower car. Tried to get around him and couldn't make it.
You see the number 5 Speed Lab Saleen Mustang back on track after a very long pit stop. Now, this is a battle for position. Number 62 and 99. This is for the Sports Racer 2 category lead. 62 car, the Kudzu Mazda. Dennis Spencer and Rich Grupp driving that car. Grupp has worked for years for Jim Downing, former 3-time champion in the old Camel Lights category, which was the full-bodied sports car version of SR2. Up onto the banking they go. Good look there at the 99. That's the Larry Schumacher, Martin Snow car. We saw them have a little trouble on the infield horseshoe a little bit earlier.
That's one of the new Lolas, Nissan. Very cost-effective package. I think we're going to see a lot of these cars later on this year and into next year.
Lola has definitely stepped up production of these SR2 chassis. You see a lot of factory representatives walking the pit lane in the paddock. Good look at that kudzu chassis. If you've ever been in the South and seen a sort of fig-like or ivy-like growth that overwhelms just about anything, you can't move it faster than walking pace. That is called kudzu. It was brought to this country about a century ago as animal feed because it grows so quickly. Down south they say you don't plant it, you drop it and run. Jim Downing has named his long line of sports car chassis kudzus. Look at that Mazda exhaust just glowing red. Look at
absolutely glowing red. Brian Redman getting out of the 68 car.
Well, the man should, after all.
Exactly.
At his age.
Exactly. His age should be in bed. Hot cocoa.
Well, still wrestling with that car. Recall they had that huge fuel leak. You see all the Speedy dry on the ground.
Got a problem here. Now this has got a sequential gearbox, which is like a motorbike gearbox, and they're obviously having a problem getting it into neutral here. They obviously want to move the car. I think the fuel line won't reach. They want to move the car. They can't get it out of gear, so they need the driver in there to press the clutch, then they can push it. They obviously can't find neutral. Just push the clutch down and then they can push it.
Maybe there's a clutch problem. Have to invest in the technology to put the fuel filler on the other side of the car, I guess. 12 and 74 continue their battle. Mimo Schiattarella.
Well, of course, that's a good point, what you were just saying there, because normally, you know, the fuel fills on that side because most of the tracks that these guys go on are right.
Race leader in the pits, James Weaver out. John Bizignano is there.
Well, you're absolutely right. They have practiced this time and time again. This is one of the slickest pit crews up and down this entire pit lane. James Weaver is out of the car and Andy Wallace is in the car. Earlier he was saying, I really like Daytona. It's a bit of all right. Well, I don't know. That's about as excited as he gets. He especially loves breaking into turn 1, where he goes from 180 miles an hour down to 60 at the 75-foot marker. So Andy Wallace is about out there to have some of his bit of fun.
Andy Wallace, of course, very, very successful long distance driver. The very first time he went to Le Mans, he won. And I was pretty ticked off at that.
I would imagine.
I mentioned it to him on the plane on the way home from Le Mans. He said, well, you know, you go there to race and you go to win. And I won. It's just everybody did that.
Well, we were talking earlier about how great his teammate is, James Weaver. Weaver has won Le Mans. He has won the Rolex 24 here at Daytona. I don't believe he's won at Sebring. Andy Wallace has won all 3 of those, the greatest endurance races in the sport. And we might add all 3 races to be seen here on Speed Vision next year. We'll be right back.
I wasn't watching. Did he just get hit by that car in the hairpin?
Oh, Andy?
Yeah.
What are we watching? The 911? Whoops.
Oh, yeah, he went white, yeah. That slick road nearly caught him out.
Sticker tires.
We got James. Sandy's got to ask.
Hey, Sandy. Sandy.
Yeah.
Tell him David Hobbs says he's too old to be in the car for that long.
Oh, my.
See what kind of an answer you get.
Brian is going to love this.
Yeah.
Oh, so what does the cock of the North mean?
The cock of the North? Oh, Biz, you really want me to say that?
Sandy, you got to show us your you-know-what.
I'm going to walk dangerously.
Say again. Wallace going wide? Okay.
At Le Mans? He was on the pole. I don't know if he's won it.
I'm not sure. The team has won it, but I'm not sure he was ever in the winning car. Welcome back. Just as we finish singing the praises of Andy Wallace, getting into the race-leading Dyson, Riley, and Scott Ford, he does this.
This is on his out lap. Look at this, locks it up at the back there, nearly slides into that wet grass, nearly gets clipped by the 90 car.
Nearly undoes all that great work by his teammate, James Weaver, who's standing by with John Bisignano.
First of all, James, why the early stop?
Well, as practice was rained out, that was the first time we'd really run the car in anger in the dry, and we wanted to make a very small adjustment to it, and that seemed the ideal time to do it.
What a great drive through the field. I mean, that puts you right at the back of the pack, and you're just lightning your way through.
Well, the car's absolutely flying. We've made a bit of a mistake. We're not running enough wing, and we misjudged that slightly for the conditions, so the car's very, very quick up the straight, which of course makes it easy to overtake.
What's your top speed?
About 187, 190 in the toe, which is quite good for one of these cars.
Fantastic job, guys. And again, like we said at the beginning of the show, they weren't sure about the setup, and they're making the adjustments as they go along.
Well, they're certainly making time because they managed to stay on the lead despite that stop and driver change. Now we go on board the number 68 once again. Ryan Redmond has just climbed out in favor of one of his teammates. Let's go down to Sandy Hank.
Well, they had a little bit of tough luck. The clutch stuck, and then they were penalized 10 seconds for having 3 people over the wall. You had 3 people over the wall before the car stopped, didn't you, Brian?
That's correct. There were too many people over the wall. It was stuck in gear.
Stuck in gear?
It was stuck in gear, so I couldn't get it going. But otherwise, it's really great. It's terrific.
Now, David Hobbs says you're too old to drive.
Well, what I'd really like to see is me up in the commentator's booth and David down here sweating his balls off.
I've got to ask him, why does he call you the cock of the North?
The cock of the North. It's a peculiar expression. And
Inquiring minds want to know.
I think it means.
Well, tell us.
It means I came from the north of England, striding proudly down the country. Cock of the North. I think that's what it means.
You do a good job tap dancing.
Oh, that smile has been there as long as he's been racing cars. Meanwhile, on board with his teammate Peter Owen, also from Great Britain, now at the controls of this Nissan-powered Pilbeam.
It really is a neat-looking little car, there's no doubt about it, and it's part of that Sports Racer 2 category. Obviously, Owen not having the experience that Brian's got, but nevertheless. And of course, he's, you know, probably his first time here, so he's going to be a bit careful starting his first race here. Oh, what happened there? There's a bit of a lane swap there behind the scoring tower.
Car on the right is the Alberto Hampton Sports Racer 2 category car, checking the lateral G-forces and the speed as he goes up around the banking. Remember, these cars are less powerful than their big brothers, if you will, from the Sports Racer category, and yet Hampton making good time down the backstretch.
Pretty good turn of speed there. Just look how it loses speed on the brakes too. Lighter. Still got pretty big brakes. That cone lying in the middle of the road now, which puts people off a little bit. Not the sort of thing you want to hit in one of these cars with relatively light bodywork. There's the leader of the GTO class.
Good comparison there. V10.
That big V10, in fact, as they really get up to speed on acceleration, the SR2 car was all over it, but as they finally reach top speed, the GTO car actually pulling away fractionally here.
Well, this year at the Rolex 24, a GTO car, in fact, a Dodge Viper, won the overall. Beat all of the sports racers. Only the second time in the history of the Rolex that that's happened, with the production-based hot rods beating the prototypes. But now, working the infield, there is Hampton all over the Viper.
Look how he caught up on the braking scene to the International Horseshoe. It just absolutely whistles by.
Much greater downforce, of course, on the prototype machinery. They turn so much more quickly. Still awfully dark there on the infield. John Bizignano.
Conversation actually about the lights around the track during the drivers' meeting. Now, standing here in the pit lane and looking at the cars out on the banking, it is as bright and easy to see as in bright daylight. The real problem is the transition into turn one, where the driver's eyes actually have to adjust to the lower light of the infield. Then the headlights should pick up and do the job. But how scary, David Hobbs, can it be to be going a good still from 170 miles an hour down to 60, hoping that your eyes will adjust by the time the headlights start working for you?
Well, it's one of those things you have to put up with. There's no doubt about it. It does make life difficult, and that's what makes sports car racing like this exciting. Wow, more excitement.
It's Doug Goad going around in the spirit of Daytona Camaro.
Now he doesn't know what to do. He's trying to do a spin turn there.
Did not have much luck with this car, running the Rolex 24 here on their home track. So they were coming here with a point to make. As far, it's been pretty sticky going for them. Oh, and more contact there, and that's in that high-speed kink on the infield. This race is an absolute sprint. 66, one of the GTU Porsche GT3Rs. Let's take another look at what happened to Doug Goad in the Camaro. That's the Nesbitt Jenkins Ford Mustang. Boy, it's awfully slick down there. I wonder if there's some fluid down there.
I don't know. Both of them there. We've already seen the 00 car have a similar sort of flame out and lock up there earlier on. And now the 09.
And that car to the right of your screen. He couldn't get stopped in that corner either. Now we'll go on board the 09 machine. It's the Nesbitt Jenkins Mustang just ahead. This is down in 1. Turning into 2.
He's got some good headlights.
Here comes the hairpin.
Lucky there was no contact there. You could hear all those straight cut gears rattling away there when he put the brakes on.
Now we've got a safety car, or a safety vehicle, a recovery vehicle on course, and a full course yellow. Cars off left and right. We mentioned that the track is slippery. The drivers will say the track conditions this weekend, nothing like what we saw at the Rolex 24 earlier this year. Once again, a lot of grass. As the car pits, John Bizignano's there.
number 27 car, Didier Tays. Bentley is getting out of the car, and Didier, who has had 1 win so far in this car this year, is patiently waiting for the fuel. Now they have done some very good, very quick stop here. Everything went exceedingly well. It's the best pit I've seen all year long. Now the question is, can that Judd go the rest of the way on the 50 liters of fuel they just put in the car?
I think it probably can do, because that's their first stop, I think, and they were lying in second, and there's only 30 laps of the 70 left to go, so they should be able to run this race out now.
Amazing to see all of that grass out there. Granted, some of the cars have been off, bringing some of it back on, and there is the reason for the yellow. You see debris on the racetrack, not just grass, it's also car parts. Here's a look at the current running order. There is your top 10. All sports racers and SR2 machinery. We'll be right back. Anybody know how...
Is 55 leading the GTU, do you know, Thomas? Huh? 46. Is it? Okay. No, that's GTO. 6. SR2. I think it's the 55 cars leading, which is the BMW. Genesis Racing with Andy Pilgrim. Then 80. Which is
09 is set to come in.
52 is... Huh?
Okay, we'll leave then.
Great minds work as one. I was just going to read down some of the big names that have won this race before. So you need words over that? Okay. Yeah, okay. Back in 1967, the first Paul Revere 250 was flagged away at Daytona International Speedway, won by Parnelli Jones in a Mercury Cougar over the late Jerry Titus and Bob Johnson. In 1968, another open-wheeled star won the race, Lloyd Ruby, again in a Mercury Cougar over John McComb and the late Peter Gregg. Over the years, some of the greatest names in motorsports joined the honor roll at the Paul Revere 250, now being revived here at Daytona International Speedway under the sanction of the Grand American Road Racing Association. This year, the 21st running after a 14-year absence. Porsche, the winningest brand with 6 victories. Hurley Haywood, not in the event this year, has won it 4 times and has the most career starts of all the drivers who've participated. John Fitzpatrick, back in 1980, won the race at a race record speed of over 120 miles an hour, beating John Paul Jr., who is in this race, by 1/2 second. Closest finish ever. There you see the various sanctioning bodies that have ruled the Paul Revere 250. It was a NASCAR Grand American Series event for several years, won by the likes of Jim Paschal, Pete Hamilton, Buck Baker, and its last 2 years featured Championship Cup Series motorcycles. Now let's get down to Sandy Heng.
Well, this caution may be just what Kevin Dorn and Lister Racing were hoping for, because fuel strategy is so important now. Do you have enough to go to the end, and do you need some cautions to make it happen?
Well, if we can get 4 laps here under the yellow, we think we can go to the end. On the mileage we're getting from Ross, with 3 laps we can make it. Didier uses a little more fuel, so with 4 laps of yellow, I think we make it to the end, and maybe all that complaining about yellows all year will turn around in our favor this time.
Well, now we saw the changes with the Ferrari. You made the switch away from Ferrari into Judd halfway through the season. Now, what are you thinking, seeing the changes that were just made with the Ferrari?
Well, I'm really happy with the Judd engine program. It's a great engine. It's good mileage, good power. If anything, right now I'm disappointed in myself. We came here and we should be a lot better than we are, and we just missed a setup. And I just appreciate all the hard work that Ross and Didier are doing to make us look better than what we really are.
Okay, thanks. That's Kevin Doran, guys.
Kevin Doran and his Doran Special, the FUD, the Ferrari with a Judd engine. They actually ran the Ferrari engine, the Rolex 24, before going to the V10. We'll take a break. Still under caution here at Daytona. If you got them, I'll write them down.
You're also going to have a pit stop on the 74 car.
Ferrari's coming in too.
Very, very quickly.
Well, Dad.
Albion Ferrari.
Sorry,
I
Boo.
think Kevin Doran was a bit unlucky there, wasn't it? Because they stopped the lap before that caution.
Yeah.
Shouldn't they? I mean, they would have. That would have just about been the icing on the cake for them if they'd gone one more lap.
If we have one of these two cars on the pit lane, can we take it back from
They're
break?
coming in right now. I don't know if I can.
Here we come. How much more are we in break?
Actually, it might work out just the way we want.
We are here. Robinson is here. If you want to take us, okay. We have some broken aerodynamics on the front. Well, welcome back, and you are right in the middle of the pit stop for car number 74. Jack Baldwin has been in the car for about 70% of the race. Now, George Robinson has to get in that car and do at least 25%. We are under 30 laps to go. The fuel that they put in here will be enough to go the rest of the distance. A lot of grass out of the front radiator, and they've broken off some of the aerodynamics up front. Very good stop for the 74 car.
So car owner George Robinson, who was delayed with malaria earlier this year, suffered on a safari to Africa, missed out on his team's first win in Phoenix, but he did win at Mid-Ohio. He's at the controls now. We're ready to go green. We'll be right back.
Ferrari stopped then as well? Is it just in front of
Yes,
them?
yes, the Ferrari stopped.
Oh, I thought I did.
Who's nose to tail? '27, 12, and 37. Okay. Did Kellner's get in the Ferrari? Did they do a driver change?
Yes,
Okay.
they did a driver change, 4
Okay.
tires. I'm going to try to interview Jim because it was happening at the same time Biz was doing his shot.
Okay. So the 27 is Tays.
Mimo is exhausted.
The 12 is Kellner's. And who's in the 37? Have they done a change? Okay. Yeah. Is Whittington in the 37?
You want a 6-gear box, but you say you can't find it. We have Jack Baldwin. He's promised to keep the interview to less than 30 minutes.
Ask him what it's like in the car, because it's been so humid.
What is it like in the car? I got you.
Because he is sweating.
He's in such good shape, you know, none of that stuff matters.
Yeah.
He says it's true. Don't make fun of it.
I'd like to do a little thing. The Ferrari had a flat. The left rear had no.
Okay.
Hey.
You want to have Biz throw to Sandy?
Yes. Where's my camera guy?
Pace
Tell him to
car
come back
lights
to
are
me.
Back live at Daytona, now 27 laps to go. Lights out on the safety car. We're ready to go green. Let's get down to the pit lane and John Bizignano.
Jack Baldwin, what a great job. But I'll tell you, Jack, you're sweating. You had a long time in the car. 70% of the driving was done by you. What's the environment of that cockpit right now?
Well, it's a little hotter than normal because we're running in more humidity. I mean, you can see the spray coming off the wings. We've got these little kickers on the front that's throwing all the air in the cockpit, but that's not the issue. The car's good. Robinson Racing and everybody on this team has worked hard to make this car better every time. It is better. But the Informix software, Riley and Scott, right now, we're hurting a little on the top end. We have too big of a split between our 4th and 5th gears, and that's where they get me. And I'm okay on the infield, got a great handling car. We need a little more mile per hour out of it, so that's the bad part.
Well, that Ferrari actually blew you off pretty well. It's the first time I've seen that this year. Now, they allow 6 speeds for your class, and you're using a 5-speed gearbox. When will you be able to get a 6-speed gearbox?
Well, I don't know. You know, I know Jimmy Frazier's working real hard to get one, and you know, we don't have one, so we've got to make the best the best with what we've got, and that's what's hurting. I can handle a Ferrari on the infield, under braking, everywhere, but when I go to 4th and I go to 5th, it's hasta la bye-bye.
I'll tell you guys, that is the worst place to have a problem. Jack's still talking.
Well, let's point out, though, that team had intended to go to the new Reynard sports car chassis this year, so probably hadn't spent a whole lot of time developing that Riley and Scott. When the Reynard didn't quite work out, they went back to the RNS. Well, I say it didn't work out. Actually, they had a huge crash in testing suffered by George Robinson. They went back to the Riley and Scott with the Judd engine, and they have won twice. As we are back to green flag racing now, the leader is Andy Wallace in the Riley and Scott Ford, being chased now by the number 27 Ferrari Judd combination in the hands of Didier Tays, then Ralph Kelleners, who has now relieved Mimo Schiatarella in the Ferrari. Here's a look at the G-forces and speeds. George Robinson currently shown in 4th place behind the Ferrari.
I don't think that's right. That was showing he was doing 72 miles an hour past the past the grandstand. I somehow suspect it's about 100 miles an hour off. That's a 16 car. Andy Wallace, one here, one season, one Le Mans. Very successful young driver. Now lives in France. Comes from England.
As dry a wit as you could expect to find. Has worked in and out of the Dyson team. In fact, he drove with Scott Schubot. His car did not make today's race with an electrical problem. Wallace gave that car a ride as well, racing against his Dyson Racing teammates. Let's get down to Sandy Hank.
I'm with John McLaughlin, who's the team manager for Team Risi Competizione Ferrari. Did you cut a tire? It looks like you had a problem there with the left rear.
Yeah, we were very lucky because the full course yellow came out, and we had a left rear tire that was losing air, so we were going to have to pit anyway. So we were just very fortunate to be able to pit on a full course yellow, which helped us a lot.
What is your evaluation of the restrictor and its performance tonight, the changes that were made, that 0.4 of a millimeter?
It's very difficult for us to assess it, but it's not very much.
Not as much as you would like?
Well, we'd like probably 1.5 millimeters. But, no, because of the rain yesterday, we couldn't do a full assessment. There's obviously some advantage, but it's very, very small.
Okay, thanks, John. And also, Mimo said it's very slippery out there at this point. He says it's not really fluid on the track, but the car is just difficult handling in the corners.
The track does seem to be incredibly slippery tonight. We've seen a tremendous amount of relatively harmless spins. Luckily, there is Kelleners going around that traffic on the high banks there. Boy, you've got to be so careful picking your way through these slower cars because they can't see you coming. They don't realize the closing speed is so high. And these guys are duking it out for position.
Look at all the class leaders. 5 classes running together here. 43 cars started the race. Driving down to turn 1. It's hard to overstate the difference between what it's like at the Rolex 24 here at Daytona, which takes place at the end of January, and tonight's race on a very warm, humid evening with low clouds overhead here at Daytona International Speedway.
And of course, you get plenty of dark in that 24-hour race because at that time of the year you get very short days. And soon, going through some lap traffic here. That's a 50 car, one of the GTU cars.
Ralph Kelleners, a young German who has won the GTU class at the Rolex 24, driving a Porsche. He's at the controls of this Ferrari. A little touch of the engine note there as he works up. Whoops.
That's the 37 car that was chasing, was in very hot pursuit. And he's had a very adventurous evening. That's about his fourth spin that we've seen.
Burnout worthy of John Force.
Boy, oh boy.
It was Dale Whittington currently at the controls of that car. Still shown in 4th place. We're looking for the 74 car, George Robinson. I don't think he got by. GTO class leaders. Viper going around. There's Whittington once again. This is the Lola Ford combination. Let's take a look from above at what happened to Whittington.
This is that last left-hander hairpin going up onto the... Whoa, I don't think he got touched in either. He just locked the rear brakes up. He seems to have got way too much braking on the back there. The back's just locked up instantly.
I think we did see a pass during that spin, in fact. There you see Whittington.
Then he does that incredible burnout, staying right.
Aboard one of the Porsches. Here's Whittington making his way around. Yes, in fact, George Robinson did get by Dale Whittington during that spin, and the rear end still sliding on that car. Whittington is getting with the program.
He sure is.
International Horseshoe. Getting on the power just that little bit too quick. The car flicking. He controls it. We'll take a break and return with more live action. 24 laps to go here at the Paul Revere 250 on Speed Vision.
Do you want to interview Butch Leitzinger because he wasn't able to make the show? Are you interested? Okay. You sure? Because he's leaving. Leaving the track.
Do you think we should talk to Butch, considering he won the last 2 races?
Do you want to interview Butch or not? Because he's leaving.
Did he win the last? Did he win it? No, he didn't win it. He won it at Lime Rock.
Won at Lime Rock, yeah. He didn't win at Mid Ohio.
No. He's got his suitcase and everything.
My camera is off property for just a minute. What pit is the Banana Joe car? It's 32.
Who's the GTU leader? Is it 80? Okay, those are all GTU cars running nose to tail.
Not that 55 car.
Back live at Daytona, there's a look at our GTU class leader, the G&W Motorsports Porsche GT3R, Breckenridge Racing Corporation and StreetMail.com. John Morton of El Segundo, California, sharing the driving duties.
We joke about Brian Redmond being old. John Morton. John Morton still just, I don't know how old he is, but he's been around a long time and he still drives like there's no tomorrow. He's very successful in his car for years.
Scooter Gable is his teammate. Gable, a late addition to that driving team, leading the Buckler Collin machine. Porsche's dominating the class right now.
BMW was leading this briefly in the 55 car, but I guess that last round of pit stops has shuffled them back to third spot in the class. 66 now lying second in this GTU class.
See if we can figure out the interval between the first and second place cars in that class. For another of those
Porsche 911s. Parker's Kennedy Motorsports Chevy Camaro in the American GT category. Aboard the Buckler Collin machine. Actually passing, that's a Sports Racer 2 category car. That's the Kudzu Mazda running second in SR2. It's a bit of a surprise that a GTU car would go by an SR2.
I think it must be having a problem because the 62 car is running in 9th position overall and our GTU lead is running in 14th. So I think the 62 car must be having a bit of a problem.
Got by him there.
By him again, of course, on braking, lighter, a lot more downforce. Whoa! Well over the curve there. Coming up that fast left-hander. Lake glistening and under all these incredible lighting here. About lit up like the world of the Christmas tree. This place is absolutely astonishing.
It is light. It is amazing. An engineering feat to light this place so brightly.
Well, when they switch these lights on here, the local power station must groan.
See the various reflectors around the circuit. That appears to be our GTU class leader just ahead on the road. Buckler Collin machine, the Racers Group Porsche GT3R. Up ahead, I believe that's the number 80. Waiting for the infield chicane. Yes, it is. Nose to tail.
Yeah, he's catching up too, isn't he?
He is, at quite a rate.
Slipstream here, bit of drafting going on as he comes down to that turn 1 area.
Here comes the braking area for 1. Let's see if he takes it just that little bit later.
Yeah, he does just a little bit. A little bit of traffic in front of the Asian car there. Quick off that corner too, isn't it?
Whoops, and up the inside comes the 16.
Yeah,
the race leader, Andy Wallace. Wallace to the left. Battle for the GTU lead right there.
The road slopes away badly. It doesn't help you at all. The camera doesn't help one bit. As you've seen, it's very slick tonight. 66 car making good ground up now on the Morton Porsche. Gap stabilizing there.
Unmistakable Porsche sound.
It's a long way around now.
Great battle.
Yeah, terrific battle.
Identical cars. Porsche GT3R. Classic 911.
G&W Motorsports. That's Darren Law and Mike Fitzgerald. Darren Law must be behind the wheel by now. Another course, GT3. Behind them is the first of the BMW 55 car with Andy Pilgrim.
Let's see what they can
Let's
do.
see what does this time. We've got more power at 66 cars.
Maybe a little less wing down into it. Once again, he refuses to slipstream it. He goes up high. Pop of flame from the exhaust as they downshift.
There is the 81 car. Look at that. Talk about the meat and sandwich. Oh, 66 car trapped in between those two G&W Motorsports cars.
Top 3 cars in GTU right here. 14th, 15th, and 16th in the overall, but class honors at stake here.
The 81 car is going to have a go on 66 car. Goes underneath him. Coming around to turn 1.
Oh, side by side. Just what that man ahead wanted to see. Flap from the right rear fender work on the 81. One little, two little, three little Porsche 911 GT3Rs working the infield.
Ooh, here comes one of the faster cars. These three guys are going to be concentrating very much on their own race.
I believe that's Taze in the Ferrari Judd.
It is. And the Ferrari is right behind him.
And those are second and third in the overall, as well as the SR category.
Through there. There goes Kellnis in the Ferrari.
The GTU battle will be put on hold momentarily while the faster cars come through.
Of course, it's one of those things that driving the faster cars, you've got to be very cognizant of. The fact that these guys are really concentrating on their own battle and they can't afford to give up too much track time or space conditions. At the same time, of course, when these guys are racing, they've got to realize that there are people out there going significantly faster than them, and they've got to somehow watch out for everybody from pressing battles for the lead in this class.
Perhaps the winningest sports car mark of all time, Porsche. Well, back to the Judd and the Ferrari. Ferrari Judd and Ferrari, if you will. Now here comes the GTO class leader battle.
The 81 car got around the 66.
Darren Law moves into second in GTU.
Meanwhile, the 27 and the 12 are duking it out for second overall. But they're 33 seconds behind Andy Wallace. Look at this battle continuing here.
This is Law for the lead. He has the inside line with that left-hander coming up at turn 1. Can he leave his braking? No, he can't. So the ebb and flow of this battle in GTU continues between 3 Porsches. Chasing one another through the infield one more time with 17 laps to go here in the revival of the Paul Revere 250. James Weaver and Andy Wallace still lead. Oh, they are going to need it, huh? Well, we need to get David back. He's in the men's room.
Double Zero is also coming in, but they're several laps down, I believe.
Who are other class leaders? Nothing as good as that GTU battle, I'm sure. Say again?
Jesus, there's- man, watch your toes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115,
He drives like you do, Biz.
Oh, man, I tell you. I'm going to slow down.
Hey, Sean, would you like me to go to 66, Kevin Buckler? He's the third of that trio.
Is that Viper still the GTO leader? Yeah, the 46 Viper.
Okay.
Do we know that he needs that splash? Okay. Back live at Daytona International Speedway, Bob Varsha, David Hobb, John Bizignano, Sandy Hang with you for the revival of the Paul Revere 250 here on Speed Vision. And there is the race leader, Andy Wallace, up high in that Dyson Racing Riley and Scott Ford. Meanwhile, our GTO class leader is in the pits. This is the Team Viper West machine. Car number 46 in the hands of Eric Mesley and Marty Miller. This is a fairly long pit stop, too, considering we have just 16 laps to go in the race.
And here comes our leader into the pits, the number 16 car. So it is, and looks like they're going to make a driver change.
Now that's interesting. That is not the shortest pit stop in the world. John Bizignano is there.
We certainly are, and just these few laps, we were hoping this car could go the distance, and they needed another yellow flag to make it all the way. They are going ahead and doing a driver change because they can do it so slickly, if that is a word, that the fuel won't be finished before the drivers are. But actually, right now, they're having a little bit of problem with the belt. The fuel is out, the tires are down. But James Weaver certainly has his work cut out for him, but he's already done it once tonight, guys. Watch him cut through this field.
Well, that shows a tremendous respect for the speed of that car in the hands of James Weaver, because that would otherwise be, in my judgment, a very dicey decision to run the risk of a balky driver change. All they needed was fuel and some rubber.
I don't know why they would do that. I mean, for Andy Wallace obviously is as quick as Weaver, and he had a 30-second odd lead, which is no way that was going to get whittled away. In fact, it was going up. It'll be interesting to see what that lead is down to now. They probably still retain the lead.
GTO class leading machine, the Viper, leaves the pits as well. We'll see next time by whether or not Dyson team was able to hold on to that lead. They've had a lot of disappointment this year, has Dyson Racing. Outrun at the Rolex 24. There's the number 12 Ferrari,
which must have now taken the lead.
Must have taken the race lead. So a curious pit decision by the Dyson crew.
Because they did stop early, you know. I mean, maybe that wasn't such a great tactical move, but it seemed to be a bit unnecessary to change drivers there because it did cost them a few extra seconds. So the number 12 car, Kellner's now leads the Ferrari.
Ralph Kellner's in that distinctive white helmet with the black stripe flashes across the start-finish line. So let's see how much work Weaver is going to have to do.
There goes the 27 car. Second place. 7 seconds down on the leader.
Andy Wallace, you're out of the car. Why the driver change this late in the race?
Well, that's the way we always planned it. We were going to change every stop drivers, and we thought that was the best way to do it. The car's actually really good. I managed to do a couple of 42s there when we went green. But the biggest problem is the traffic, so you have to be very, very tough in the traffic because we don't have much time.
We've seen a lot of cars slipping and sliding around that infield. That's been a problem all weekend long.
Yeah, because we don't have enough rubber down on the track at the moment, and it's very, very green.
Will he have enough time to get up front?
Well, we'll see. He's going to drive as hard as he can. That's the only way he knows how, so let's hope he can catch.
He's absolutely right about that one. He's been out there having a bit of fun, remember, guys.
Well, he's going to have to toss aside the fun and get down to work. As you see up debris.
That looks a bit like a number 74 car stuff to me.
Actually, it's off the 11 American GT car. I happen to be looking up the infield part of the tri-oval here, just as that came flying off of a Chevy Camaro out there. There's the current running order. You can see Weaver and Wallace now down in fourth spot.
And I see now this could play right into their hands because I see the yellow flag in the hands of the flagman. So does that mean we're going to go to a full course caution, which will solve all their problems?
They're taking a long look up the straightaway. That bit of fiberglass is definitely off the racing line, but it is right in the pit entrance lane. On board with the Porsche in the GTU battle. And now the yellow flag comes out. So, good luck or bad. Depends on your strategy. Oops, so we've got a spinner on the infield. Does that include the Ferrari? That's Keltner's in the Ferrari, the race leader. Now there were already cars parked cattywampus down there in the International Horseshoe. And the 27 car now has gone by into the race lead. That's Didier Taze in the Doran Special.
Now, of course, the other thing is the Doran Special with the Judd engine and the 74 car of Baldwin and Morrison. Will that, in fact, will they be able to keep going without having to stop? Which would have made a tremendous difference if they hadn't had this caution period.
So the cars are now slowing. Let's take a look at what happened in the infield horseshoe involving the Ferrari. The car's out of two. Now there's the number 52 and the 99, a couple of SR2 cars. It's the Snow Schumacher car. The 99 gets going again. There's Kellners who locks him up.
I think he just locked him up when he saw those two cars parked there. Maybe overdid it a bit, locked him up, goes onto the grass here. And here comes the 27 car of Didier Taze.
Comes around.
And about to go by him right there. Goes by it and takes the lead. But of course, they're all going to be bunched up now under the yellow. They had a 34-second lead on James Weaver after this Weaver stop, which obviously now will have evaporated to nothing.
That other spinner in the International Horseshoe was an interesting car. One of the Tampoli Raffaelli engineering machines here using an Alfa Romeo V6 in the SR2 category. We said we had diversity. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you want to? That's.
Or do you want to take
how long are we
Ferraris
gonna be
coming
under
in for
caution?
a splash of fuel?
I think we've got a developing story here. Anybody who needs fuel can now take it under this yellow. I don't know if we want to.
And fuel is a factor not only for these guys and SR2.
But of course, you lose track position at this, which only 13 laps to go, mind you.
Sandy, are you taking the inner sport?
No, I'm at Ferrari.
All right, I'm right behind you.
Yeah, Intersport is back. They're pretty well back now. They're in 5th place.
They're in.
Of course, they're going to close up now. Ferrari's in for a splash. Fuel only.
They calculated that they would be 3 laps shy. They had to come in.
John Field
37 is in. Is that Field in the car, John?
Yes, it is.
Whittington started?
I just know that Field's in now. I asked who's in the car now.
Okay.
Look out. Rear wing end plate through the stomach.
They may want to show the Ferrari. Now they're giving up track position, so what are we going to have here? We'll have the 27, the 74, and the 16 running first, second, and third. Maybe we should. Maybe we should replay the pit stops so that we set up the. Okay, well, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
You want Sandy to comment on that? I mean,
Yes.
she made a pretty cogent comment there that they had calculated they were going to be 3 laps short. Why don't you have Sandy welcome us back and call the replay while we were in break. Ferrari made the stop, and here's what. Oh, okay, good point. Well, maybe you just play it and she just tells us what happened. Okay. All right. Back at Daytona, 11 laps to go next time by. Under the yellow flag, Ralph Kellner's in the Ferrari. Came in for a splash and go. More grass out of the radiators at the front of that car. And you see that indentation, just the size of the gearbox on the Riley and Scott. 37 Interscope Lola also came in. Let's get down to Sandy Heng.
This was a calculated move by the Ferrari team. They did the number crunching. They realized that they would be 3 laps shy. They needed this fuel, and this was the opportunity they decided to take. Also, when we look at the Sports Racer 2, the same scenario is playing out with them. They have figured it out that they will be 1 lap shy on fuel, so we expect them to take a stop in just a moment as well.
So the race leaders at this point, Didier Taze, his partner in the Doran Special, the Ferrari chassis with the jet engine. Second place, Robinson, Baldwin, Riley and Scott Judd, and in third place, James Weaver in a Riley and Scott Ford. There you see the other class leaders as well. We'll be right back to Go Green.
Who's that on the giant screen out there?
It is Intersport, isn't it? What's that?
Who? Who's interviewing him?
That's PA. That's PA.
Whose camera is on it?
It's PA.
Okay.
Who's dancing in the background?
Matt, keep your voice down. Okay.
Why are they under caution so long for just picking up that piece?
I don't know. Is it? I don't see any SAG trucks out there anywhere.
Well, it ran out
up the debris.
It went out and picked it up 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Is that the pace car? The lights off now?
Yeah, lights are off now. They're about.
11 laps.
Yeah, 10 to go next time by.
Speed Vision's coverage of the Paul Revere 250 is brought to you by new 104 Plus Octane Boost with Acceleron Power and Fram, who asks, when was the last time you changed your air filter?
Back live, and once again we are under green. Just gone back to green here with 10 laps to go next time by. The race leader is Didier Taze in the Doran Special, followed by George Robinson in his Riley and Scott Judd, and then James Weaver in a Riley and Scott Ford. Those top 3 covered by about 4 seconds. Ferrari is running in 4th spot, followed by the Intersport Lola in 5th.
10 laps to go. I just don't think that the Judd-powered Ferrari chassis is going to be able to hold off James Weaver. He's just too close. It could have been, if it hadn't been for that caution, they might have been able to hold him off, but I think he's going to be able to wind him in and get by him.
A look at the Ferrari. Ralph Kellner is going by the Sports Racer 2 category leader, Ryan Hampton, his Lola Nissan. 10 laps to go. James Weaver has gone around George Robinson of the 74 into 2nd place. John Bizignano has more.
Well, David Hobbs, you're absolutely right. I just talked to Kevin Doran, and he loves to see his car up front. But he says we only have one problem. We don't have the speed to win.
No, they don't have just quite What it takes, that Ford has definitely got a bit more muscle. Better fuel consumption for the Judd. About the same top end, but I think the Ford has got it coming off these corners like now up onto the banking. And of course, as James said, they're running a bit low on the old rear wing, which is making it a bit slippery out there for them, but it helps them enormously down these straights.
This is where it'll work for them most. Running nose to tail, the race leader Tays being chased by James Weaver, and thought that perhaps the Dyson team outsmarted themselves a little bit by taking the extra time to put Weaver in the car for this closing stint. Looks as though it may just come right for them.
Well, you've got to be a bit lucky in racing, and they certainly were extremely lucky that caution flag came out. And quite a long one at that too, when they only had to just go and pick up that body part. But there you see all that grass and dust up against the wall here. I think they've been mowing it down generally and throwing it up onto the track, and these cars are scooping it up into the front air intakes, even without going off the road. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, that's certainly helped Didier Tays there. He got around that slower car there, and Weaver definitely got bull. Whistling by him now as he goes to the international hairpin. International horseshoe.
The second Intersport racing machine. Now that's O'Reilly and Scott with a 5.5 liter, a 6 liter Ford in it. Banana Joe's sponsorship. They just went through a driver change as well, but they're running at least one lap down. And now James Weaver is right there behind Didier Tays.
About to nail him going into this next left-hander, I should say.
As they make the turn up onto the NASCAR Tri-Oval. The Belgian still has the lead over the Englishman.
Didn't get him. I thought he might get him on braking there, but he didn't. But his favourite place this afternoon, of course, had been this afternoon, 3 o'clock in the morning, slashing by into the chicane here, which is what he did.
Nice defensive line there by Tays, right out there in the middle of the road. Nothing high or low for Weaver to use.
Only 8.5 laps to go left. So I guess he's going to fight every inch of the way here.
That's Tony Stewart looking on. He's been here all evening. He worked hard all day in his Winston Cup car for Joe Gibbs Racing. Now the Home Depot driver is watching the sporty car guys. So James Weaver backs off just that little bit. He's going to think about it.
Lull Didier Tays into a deceptive, free and easy state of mind, and then zap, nailed it.
Doesn't look like he's quite close enough for the international horseshoe. Nope. There's the running order.
There you go. There's that torque, see, in that big engine.
Yeah.
Beautifully lined up there by James. As the Ferrari went wide, he went in just a little bit slower, but then that big torque on that bigger engine just really pulled him on the exit there. So, regrettably, what could have been a tremendously exciting race was rather spoiled by that caution.
Rob Dyson has worked with James Weaver for some 15 years or so, and he thinks the world of him as a racing driver. Now you can see why. We'll take a break. Be back for the closing lap. Stay with us. AGT leader has 4th gear only. How close is the next guy in class? Oh, okay, so
05 looks dead. 05 looks
whoops. There's one of the, it's the Alpha, one of the Alphas.
5.
More breaks before the checkers. Okay. Is anybody else as surprised as I am that Tony Stewart is still out here?
Yeah, he made some very interesting comments. wants to get in one of these cars next year.
Yeah.
Especially for the 24-hour. He had a Corvette ride this year and turned it down because he wants to be in a prototype.
Well, you know me, I'd just love to take it to the finish, but you don't want to get...
I mean, he has not missed one lap. He hasn't even gone, you know.
Okay. The top 5 cars are on the lead lap. Back live at Daytona, where we may not be open all night, but we are certainly open into the wee hours. Coming up on 22 minutes after 1 Eastern Time. The revival of the Paul Revere 250 continues here on Speed Vision. Now just 7 laps to go, 6 to go. Next time by, 5 cars remain on the lead lap, led by James Weaver. This Dyson Racing, Riley and Scott Ford. This is the battle for third. Car on the left is George Robinson. It is Riley and Scott Judd. On the right, Ralph Kellner's Germany. The Risi Competizione Ferrari. Just rolls off the tongue. Ferrari. Turn 1. There's the Ferrari number 12 being held up by one of those Tampoli Alfa Romeos. Cars that came over from the Sports Racing World Cup in Europe. Today's race was to have been considered a round, a double round, if you will, the Grand American Road Racing Association and the Sports Racing World Cup. But they weren't able to get enough cars to sign up for the trip across the pond.
Weaving through there on that very fast left-hand kink. As you can see, the road's not wide there at all. And he just carving his way through.
Whoops, and there's a spin. Is that one of the SR2 cars? That's the former class leader, the Rich Grupp Mazda Kudzu, car number 62. Dennis Spencer sharing those driving doors. Whoa, that's how wet it is.
Well, that was a bit injudicious. I mean, he legged it on that grass. I mean, well, I know that was going to happen.
Currently second in class. That car went through a huge wreck at the Lime Rock round of the championship this year. Ended up with a stuck throttle, just grinding along the Armco. Meanwhile, there's Weaver. Absolutely flying up through NASCAR 3 and 4. Look at the lateral G-forces on that car. See his head bobbing around in the car. He's actually looking down in the cockpit. So, don't need the map at this hour.
Time for a late snack. Whoops! Boy, see, that's
he's adjusting brake bias.
Well, that's because he's got too little rear wing on it, and you can see the rear twitching around there. And then brake hard into that first turn there. It's a bit of a downhill approach as you come off the banking, and then it goes very flat, so you have no camber to help it. Made the old car twitchy there.
So the announcers are being glib up here. Well, now there's problems.
The Mazda.
Yep. It's the Grupp Spencer Mazda. Looks like the bodywork might be a little...
I think the suspension's a bit in the range.
Yeah.
The car's,
It's not steering.
No, it isn't. Right rear suspension. So.
Well, they were running second in class when they went off the road. See if they can hold on. We're going to stay with you right to the checkered flag now.
I wonder which came first, going off the road, broke it, or if it broke and then just put him off the road.
Well, it may explain why he spun it around so quickly.
Easily, yeah. Boy, look at that lead. He's got a 10-second lead in just 4 laps since he overtook Didier Tays. He's now got a 10-second lead.
Well, there's the Kudzu limping around in the foreground, and suddenly we have gone yellow once again. Full course caution. Well, the dirt on the racetrack there in the chicane. We're looking around the racetrack.
Is that because that car that's coming back, the Kudzu, coming back slowly?
I can't imagine. He's up on the NASCAR tri-oval now, so he's got plenty of room to stay out of the way. Nevertheless, the yellow is back out. 4 to go. Next time under the flag stand, we'll take this opportunity for a break and be back for the checkered flag.
might go to the end on yellow.
Yeah, no, they'll have to restart on 68.
That's at best case.
Restart will be on 68.
At best case scenario.
Yeah, that's what he just said.
Oh, he did say
I wonder what this yellow's about.
Two-lap shootout.
Oh, it is?
They might run second, third, or fourth, fifth.
Two-lap shootout.
That's why the yellow 00 Nesbitt car's in down there.
Oh. I am.
Just for your information, the 00 has been in the pits at least 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you know who's in the car, John?
I'll,
Is it Jenkins?
let me find out.
Okay. Live at Daytona, there is the cause for our current full course caution. That is the Bruce Nesbitt Ford Mustang that has nosed into the tire barriers at the second infield hairpin. As the camera draws back, you get an idea of where he is relative to the field, making its way down to get back on the tri-oval. 3 laps to go, next time by. We're ready to go green shortly, we hope, so we'll take this final break and be back with you shortly. Stay with us for more Live from Daytona.
'09.
Yeah.
And while we have this break, who's GTU?
GTU leader is the 81 car.
Okay, just confirming Sports Racer 16, Sports Racer 2, 22, AGT 09, 81, GTU, and GTO 46.
Would you repeat that? I'm sorry, I was talking to somebody. Grazie. Thank you. FYI, Sports Racer 2 now will duck in for their splash.
Is that all?
Goodness.
That's not Alberto coming in for a splash, is it? Did you say, Sandy?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. I mentioned that they were going to have to come in. I can do it.
Well, take that, Sandy.
Back live at Daytona, a look at the Ralph Kellner's Ferrari, the Rizzi Competizione Ferrari out of Dallas, Texas. As we remain under a full course caution, Bruce Nesbitt Ford Mustang has been removed from the tire barrier.
And that caution has been very good too for the number 74 car of Baldwin and Robinson, which of course is now right behind the 27 car.
There's our leader in the Sports Racer 2 category, the Larry Oberto Ryan Hampton machine. Those men also lead the SR2 category Drivers Championship. See him waving cars by to take his place in the serial. Currently leads SR2 and is 6th overall behind 5 sports racers. There's that GTU battle, which now closes up behind the safety car. The Darren Law, Mike Fitzgerald car leads that category. On board the number 66 machine, the Buckler Collins machine, who were passed for the class leadership in a great 3-way battle. Now, they'll have another shot at class leadership before this one ends. Back up on the can. Fitzgerald and Law lead the Drivers' Championship. Actually, Mike Fitzgerald has a slight lead over his teammate. They have not been paired together in those G&W Porsches throughout the season to date. Fitzgerald finished higher than Law in the season opening Rolex 24. As the Nesbitt Ford continues on its way back to the pits. Not a whole lot of damage, obvious, on the car, but they have been in and out of the pits all evening. On board with the 09 leader in the American GT category, and Sandy Hing can update us on their situation.
Struggling, but they've done quite well in maintaining their position. You may remember they had a radiator punched, they overheated, got the car back out and on its way. They are running in 4th gear only, the Spirit of Daytona. Remember at the beginning of the race I was talking about they changed the entire suspension geometry. They knew they were going to have some difficulties coming into this, but they've managed it quite well.
If they can hold on for the victory, Craig Conway and Doug Gold will take over the leadership in the AGT class driver championship standings. On board that number 46 Viper, Nestle Hayner machine, leading the GTO category, so they'll move up 1 spot from where they finished the last round at Mid-Ohio, where they finished second. The GTO class led by the Saleen Mustang teammates, Borchler and Johnson, but that car has gone behind the wall. With that big Daimler Chrysler V10 under the hood. Vipers have become synonymous with GT class excellence around the world. Meanwhile, up front, James Weaver will just cinch those belts down that little bit tighter as he prepares for the battle to come. John Bizignano.
Well, he is cinching his belts a little bit tighter. They've given him the full go, don't let them by, do everything to win order out of the pits. But I think one thing that I'll go away with here is that we have been really impressed with the pure race engines over the American V8s. But here at Daytona, the torque of the V8s, especially into the infield and on to these long straightaways, certainly proved the advantage. For parity, we may have Grand Am looking a little bit more at these super speedway infield type events and letting a little bit more air into those 4-liter pure racing motors so that the revs can get where they where the revs can get where they should be, and therefore keep up with these V8s. The only way to go today, guys, is to have a big banging American V8 with lots of torque.
Well, that's what James Weaver has.
They got a lap and a half too when the pace car pulls off right now. He's going to pull off to the right there. James Weaver, I think, is in pretty good shape. The guy who's under the threat now is Didier Tays in the 27 car in second spot. And I think that Baldwin or Robinson, I'm not sure who's behind the wheel.
George Robinson down low and Ralph Kellner's up high in that Ferrari are both going to be coming after him. It'll be white flag next time under the flag stand.
Wow, Kellner's slipped around the Robinson car there.
So the Ferrari moves into 3rd place. He will set his sights on the 2nd place machine of Didier Tays.
Wow, a good start there. Great start by Kellner's, who outfoxed Robinson as they went up onto the banking there, swooped underneath him. And with only 1 lap left to go, they don't have a lot of time to fight this out.
That's Tays in the center of your screen, just ahead of the Ferrari. There is Weaver leading the way. 1 more lap around this 3.56-mile combined infield road course and NASCAR tri-oval. White flag out for James Weaver as they rocket down into turn 1. There is Tays, and then the Ferrari of Kellner's, and then George Robinson with the Riley and Scott Judd. 4 different mechanical combinations, chassis and engine combinations in the top 4 positions. A lot of brakes.
Didier Tays there, locking him up as he goes into the horseshoe hairpin.
And you saw the Ferrari jink off the road. I think he almost ran into the back of him.
Meanwhile, Weaver streaking away.
Well, the Dyson team has lost races in the most interesting ways this year, including a broken rear suspension at Mid-Ohio, flat tires, you name it. But right now, they look absolutely dominant.
Look at that tremendous battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They're all over each other as they go up onto the banking.
Ferrari down low.
The Ferrari getting around. Didier Tays just holding on there. Didier got slightly balked as they went into that hairpin. And there George Robinson lurking in the background, getting a draft now off both of them.
The complaint about the Ferrari V12 has always been it didn't have the torque. And there's an example of it right there as the Judd pulled away and the Judd behind closed up. Final corners now, off the chicane and up onto the high banks. And James Weaver pulling away. He is exiting these corners. That is the kind of superiority that the Dyson team has demonstrated today. Down to the checkered flag comes James Weaver to take the victory. Didier Tays holds on unofficially for second place. Ralph Kellners brings the Ferrari home third. And George Robinson is fourth. And his team's Informix, Riley and Scott Judd. Now let's look for the GTU battle just coming off the infield. This is the Buckler Collins machine up ahead. The Darren Law, Mike Fitzgerald, number 81 Porsche GT3R. As they circle slowing down. Whoa, there's almost contact there between the second and third place GTU cars. And it appears that Darren Law will hold on to solidify he and his teammates' position in the driver championship. Fitzgerald will remain the leader. They bring that car home. See if Craig Conway and Doug Goad were able to hold on in the American GT category. Surely the Nestle Viper won the GTO class race.
That GTU race was absolutely incredible, wasn't it? For the whole race.
Spirit of Daytona crew, hugs and high fives all around. It has been a long day here at Daytona International Speedway. Intermittent showers, lots of questions about when this race would run. Track time has been hard to come by due to heavy rainfall, and in the end, the Paul Revere 250 is back. We'll take a break and return.
They didn't give him the checkered flag the first time by.
What is that all about?
They didn't.
I know they didn't give it to James the first time by, so I guess he just figured I'll take another lap.
Absolutely.
That was weird.
Yeah.
We're going to victory lane right now.
Hope you boys and girls down there brought your track shoes.
What time are we on? Are we going till 2 o'clock?
Oh, man.
What?
Kellner's just shut the Ferrari down.
2 o'clock,
right
are we going
to?
Or 3 o'clock? Good. Got an hour and a half then.
Those 4 segments are going to be 20 minutes long. Why is everybody going to the pits? They're all pulling into their pit stalls, though. They're not heading for the garage.
No.
We got 20 minutes to go.
We're still waiting for
you have
them
a quarter
to
to.
come into victory lane. I don't know if we'll have to tap dance a little.
He's going to be the last car off the track. He's just up in NASCAR 3 and 4 now. They didn't give James the checkered flag the first time when he came through, so he did another lap.
Yes.
Which is very weird, since it's not a timed race. What's that all about?
Okay.
Why don't you just get whoever you can get?
Or do you want to do the 2 drivers together and we go to the next class?
Welcome back to Daytona, live, approaching 20 minutes to 2 a.m. here at Daytona International Speedway. Paul Revere 250 for the year 2000 is now complete. The trophy awaits. There's the man who will hoist it. Bit of an unusual circumstance there when James Weaver first sailed under the flag stand. They did not give him the checkers, although they did give it to the cars behind him. So Weaver made another lap, but he is, without question, the winner of this revival of the Paul Revere 250.
And drove impeccably. He had a little bit of luck towards the end there when that yellow flag came out, when he had a 34-second deficit. He may have made it up because he was significantly quicker than the others towards the end of the race. And of course they made that very good tactical move early on when they stopped under that caution flag and got an early pit stop, which gave them a huge lead when everybody else made their pit stops under green. So all in all, a pretty good race. I had just a little bit of luck at the end there, but James is very quick.
Pat Smith is the crew chief for Dyson Racing, has worked with Rob Dyson for many, many years, even more than James Weaver has. Rob will tell you that he, as the car owner, is just a number. He says, I get into the car when Pat tells me, I get out when Pat tells me. Pat runs the show. And he has called an impeccable race tonight. Even when we thought that that last-minute driver change was going to cost them, sure enough, they had the performance and the drivers to get it done. Now, Weaver trying to make his way. He decided to wait for the team. That's Rob Dyson in the white driver's suit. The crew piling on. There's Andy Wallace in blue. They will ride together to victory lane here at Daytona International Speedway, now just 2 pit stalls away.
Following the Speed Vision interview, and we will recognize the winners in all of our classes here.
Congratulations to Dyson Racing. 3rd victory of the year 2000 for James Weaver.
Roll it up. There you go. Great go, James. Great go. Can we push it forward a little bit? Roll it up,
The world's most famous victory lanes looks even better under the immaculate lighting here at Daytona International Speedway. Let's get down to John Bisignano.
James, another good run in the car. You went out last again after that yellow and you sliced through the field. You definitely had the speed on the banking.
Yeah, we had the car set for that. I think we overdid it slightly, but I was driving with my brother, which was great. So it's just...
Is that your younger brother or older brother?
He's my younger brother, and it's very nice for the English to win the Paul Revere.
What about your stint in the car?
Well, it was great actually. We ran a few 42s. We got fastest lap of the race, which was fantastic in there. And as James said, we ran the car very quick down the straight, but we were pretty loose in the infield, so it was very exciting to drive.
You actually had to survive the infield. You've been talking about how green the track was all week long. The back end of the car was everywhere.
It was, and actually the 2 places where you come back up onto the banking out of the bus stop and out of the infield were where the car was worse actually. And it did a couple of snakes a few times and got awfully close to the wall, but we just kept our foot in it and it was okay.
What about this great V8 torque, V8 power, American V8 torque and power against the 4-liter pure race motors?
Well, today we won, didn't we? So that's great.
They really didn't have anything for you. Even on the braking, you said, I love the braking so much. You were going from 185 miles an hour down to 60 in 75 feet.
Well, that's right. I mean, in fact, the Riley and Scott's a very, very good chassis. It's always been good under braking. It's got a lot of downforce. So it's pretty well suited for this course, and we're all very, very happy to win here.
Slipping and sliding in the infield, but boy, were they rocketing all the way around this banking.
Boy, I guess they were. I think James kind of gave John a moment's pause there with that crack about the Brits winning the Paul Revere 250. Hey, James, we'll point out we still have the flag. Congratulations to Dyson Racing. Well-judged victory here at Daytona International Speedway, but we have lots more still to come. There's your top 10. We'll be back to hear from more of our winners.
Crowd seems to have dwindled a little bit.
Darren Law and Fitzgerald here. That was the best race on the...
Yeah, that was.
God. Who was in the car last? You must have...
We think it was Darren. If it wasn't, then don't tell us.
No, it was Darren.
Okay, good. He's a pretty good interview.
All right, we are down to victory circle here for the Paul Revere 250 at Daytona. And this race really lived up to the reputation of the Paul Revere 250 over the years. Bringing up the victory circle podium right now, the overall winners in our Paul Revere 250 in the Dyson number 16. Ford RS.
Didier didn't look like such a happy camper.
And of course, Team owner Rob Dyson is going to jump in as well. Congratulations, guys. Nice job out there. Thank you very much indeed. Tell us about your last stint here at the wheel.
The car's been flying all weekend, and it's
Still doing that brother shtick.
Andy, we got to talk to you a little bit earlier here before you brought the car in the victory circle. How are you feeling about winning the Paul Revere 250?
Well, I would say it's fantastic. It's really great to drive with James. He always does a great job. It's great to drive for Dyson Racing, and this is my first win of the year.
The lights of Daytona International Speedway continue to burn in the early hours of Friday morning. Meanwhile, the Paul Revere 250 is now into the history books. The 21st running. Let's get down to Sandy Hang.
I'm with Didier Taze. A remarkable run. When Mimo got out of the car, he said he was fighting the car tremendously.
Yeah, I was really loose on the infield, on all the slow corners. In the acceleration, I was sideways everywhere, and I had a hard time to go back on the throttle. And that's why I think Weaver passed me. He passed me at the acceleration. My car was good in the fast corner, but we were missing. We missed a little bit of practice yesterday for a problem with the starter on the car. We missed 1 hour of practice, and we fight that loose feeling all race, and the traction was very bad all race. But second is better than fifth or third. You know, we're pleased with it anyway.
Is that what happened right before you came in for that final splash of gas?
Yeah, I mean it's you know, after that, you know, I was pushing to make sure I make a gap long enough, you know, to be covered. But we had a couple of yellow at the end, and I had to conserve my tires for those yellow. And finally, at the end, you know, I had to push, and it was just enough to keep my second spot.
What were you thinking when the Ferrari came up behind you? Didn't know if it would be able to make a run?
No, I know I had to protect my line in the slow corners, and I know in the fast corner I was fine. The chicane, I was faster than them, and my only problem was the acceleration of the second gear corner in the infield.
Okay, thanks for this. Didier Taze, second place. Happy to take it, fighting that car all night.
All right, thank you, Sandy. That's what sports car racing is all about. The relative strengths and weaknesses played off one car and one driver against another. There are our class winners. We know about James Weaver and Andy Wallace in Sports Racer. Larry Alberto and Ryan Hampton remain undefeated through 5 races in Sports Racer 2. Eric Messley and Marty Miller, the GTO winners, their first victory in that Dodge Viper, 10th overall. Darren Law and Mike Fitzgerald, the winners in GTU. Let's get down to John Bizignano.
First of all, Darren, who's this young man on your shoulder?
This is Michael Scrogg, and my car owner's little boy.
He's a DuPont Racing fan, number 24 there. Listen, what the best race out there all night long.
We had a heck of a race, man. I need to thank the team and Dunlop Tires they held in there the whole way through. I think that's what got us through the last 20 laps. I had good launches off the corner.
You were a little bit worried about that right rear, especially with the Porsches.
Yeah, actually, halfway through my run when we came in under a yellow, we blistered a right rear tire, so I was really pacing myself to begin with, but I couldn't by the end there.
Mike Fitzgerald, your mirrors were full of other Porsches all night long. Where did you have the advantage?
Our car was good everywhere, but we had some problems early on. I got run off the road in my stint, and Darren and the crew did a great job bringing us back from the grave to win this thing. It was amazing.
Chris McAllister and, of course, my old friend John Morton, congratulations on a great second place. You look a little bit tired, John.
I'm not tired, I'm just hot. This is the hottest night.
How hot was it?
This is the hottest night race I've ever been in. But I can't tell you what a great job the team did, and to keep the car going and we made a good pit stop, and that last lap we would have been third. We had a lucky break on the last lap on the restart, and that's what did it.
You probably have more laps around here than anyone else in this paddock. Congratulations on that. This was maybe the most fun you've ever had here.
Yeah, it is. I think so. It's certainly the most exciting last lap.
Chris, what about your stint in the car?
Actually, I don't know who Chris McAllister is. I just got to borrow his.
I hate it when that happens. I've been waiting all year long for you to show up in the wrong driver's suit. Congratulations on a great second place. Tell us about your time in the car.
It was kind of a last-minute deal for me to get to drive with G&W, and I'm really thankful to the entire team for the opportunity I got. It was just kind of a rough time out there. There was a lot of traffic and a lot of crazy incidents. So for me, it was just to start the race and keep it clean and hand the car over to John. And fortunately, he kept it up front.
Well, Scooter, I hope you get your suit back from the dry cleaners. You certainly had everyone confused. Congratulations on a great run.
Thank you very much.
I tell you what those G&W Motorsports cars need. They need some brighter driver's suits. And I'll correct that graphic. It was Darren Law and Mike Fitzgerald who won the class. We'll be back.
place overall in the Paul Revere 250. Didier Shades. Let's bring him up on the victory lane. And Ross Bentley from Grand Racing. Graham John. And second in the sports racer, second overall in Paul Revere 250. Didier. Your presentation. And it's Ross Bentley is around. And we found us bring up third place as well. Receiving the fifth zone, Ferrari 333 and that's Dave. Vilo, Gian Ferrara, and Rolf Ferrara. Rolf Ferrara. And we'll present your third place award for third overall. We hope more clipper and the Paul Revere 250.
Seven. Yeah. Big blank sheet of paper.
So there's a bunch of Formula One guys in the front, so we're waiting for.
Back at Daytona International Speedway, the celebrations have just begun in Victory Lane. There is the winning Riley and Scott for James Weaver and Andy Wallace. Meanwhile, our Spec Racer 2 undefeated race winners are also in Victory Lane. Excuse me, in Sports Racer 2. Let's get down to Sandy Heng.
Well, 5 in a row for Ryan Hampton and Larry Oberto here. It's got to be a great feeling for you.
Yeah, the streak is alive. That's right. Yeah, I mean, it was a long race for me. I had to do a double stint. You know, I'm kind of wore out, but hey, it was fun. And you know, this Archangel Motorsports team, they just keep putting a great car underneath us, and we really can't complain. I mean, the car has not gone wrong yet. So we're just trying to keep it alive. You know, I'd like to thank Avon Tires. They helped out tremendously this week, and they build a great tire for these cars. You know, Oberto Beef Jerky did great this weekend. American Instruments, everybody helped us out. I know this sounds like a canned speech. And also, there's one other person I have to thank. And
your mother, because she was standing right over here by the railing yelling, "That's my boy!"
That and AJ Foyt. Mom, Dad, thanks. And AJ, I know you wished us luck before this race, and so it went well.
Now, Larry, you were calculating the fuel. You said you were going to be short 1 lap, and we saw you come in for that splash.
Yeah, they thought it was going to be real close and decided to do a splash at the very end. And I think I was more nervous than everyone else. You know, the crew kept telling me, "Oh, it'll be fine. We'll make it." And I'm like pacing. You work so hard to get the lead, and you never want to leave it up to chance.
And Larry, this is your first race here at Daytona. Your impressions and your thoughts?
Now that I've raced here, I like it. I'd love to come back and do the 24-hour race, and so hopefully we'll be able to do that. It's a fun track. It's fast. The banking just goes around forever. It's neat. It's a great place.
Okay, that's Larry Oberto. Thanks. And Biz, I see you're celebrating over there as well.
Well, the celebration hasn't really begun yet, but Marty Miller and Eric Messley are very happy with their GTO victory. Eric, I've got to ask you, you came across the line and belts were flying from underneath the car. If there had been another half lap, you wouldn't be in this victory circle.
We would not have been in this victory circle. Yeah, we lost a serpentine belt or something like that. Power steering, water pump, oil pump, everything. Just in time finish.
Now you're Viper in Lime Rock and in Mid-Ohio. I've never seen a car longer, harder, more diligent work with no results. Now it's come for you.
It's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we worked our rear ends off. Just the crew, everybody just helped us out so much. Long hours finally pays off.
Marty, you were here in a Motorola Cup car. Now you have a lot more horsepower, going a lot faster around this track. You seem to be very comfortable at the extra speed.
Well, yeah, sometimes the looks are deceiving. We had a good run. The car was extremely quick. A lot of work to drive, but it's a super car. You know, very, very, very nice car. Eric should take all the credit for it. He's been working his butt off. He drives the car to the races. He works on it to the last minute, jumps in his suit. The guy's Superman. He's done a great job.
I'll tell you, it's going to be nice to see this Viper up where it belongs in the remaining events.
That's right. Thank you, John. Spec Racer, what is wrong with me? That's what 20 cups of coffee will do for you. I got to get used to racing at midnight. Here's a look at the top 10 once again. We have one more set of class winners to hear from. American GT. We'll do that when we return live very early on Friday to Daytona.
Speed Vision's coverage of the Paul Revere 250 is brought to you by Informix Software. Way to web.
Back at Daytona, I mentioned earlier in the show that our American GT class leaders had something to prove after a miserable Rolex 24. Well, they made that point today, but only just. Here's Sandy.
Well, I'm with Craig Conway and Doug Goad. Excellent drive, considering some of the difficulties we saw you experiencing. At first, they thought maybe you punched a hole in the radiator, but it turns out you just went off the track, and what happened? You got a lot of gunk and overheated.
Right, we had to go off the track in the back chicane because the car spun and blocked it. So it was either run into him or go through the grass. I took the grass that filled up the radiator vent or the aperture full of grass. So the motor ran a little hot. We decided to come in and see what we could do. So we lost a couple of laps fixing it, but you know, luckily we caught that back up. Other guys had other problems. And then towards the end, we had another major problem, which we lost 2 gears in the transmission.
You were driving in fourth there only, wasn't it? Or
it was Doug that was driving. He was only in one. I think he was holding it in third gear all the way around. So it was a little bit rough, but you know, everything worked out in the end.
Worked out well. John DeBenedictis, the honorary firefighter down there with the hose, getting that overheating problem solved. And Doug, just real quickly, must have been tough. No gears to choose from, basically.
Well, it makes it a lot simpler. You can't miss any shifts that way. But engine ran great. Car was great. I mean, handling was good. The brakes were great, but we just didn't have any gears left, so we stuck it in third and ran the rest of the race.
Okay, congratulations again, AGT winners.
So the Spirit of Daytona crew did their fans proud. Here's a final look at the overall. Weaver and Wallace, the race victory. Alberto and Hampton remain undefeated. As you take a look down through the rest of the grid, David Hobbs, your final thoughts?
Well, it was obviously a very exciting race, and James Weaver certainly seemed to have the legs of the field in that final stint. There's no doubt about it. The torque of that American Ford V8 got him off those corners a bit quicker. Didier Tays obviously very disappointed. Spet Robinson and Jack Baldwin a little bit disappointed. They weren't just a little bit closer to the front, but all in all pretty good and a tremendous race yet again in that GTU. Quite extraordinary. I mean, those three guys were absolutely nose to tail for the last 100 miles.
A great revival for the Paul Revere 250. Still to come, the Road America 500. Then it's on to Paul Revere for the Grand Am Road Racing Association in its inaugural season. And they'll wrap it up with another great sports car event, a legendary 6 hours at Watkins Glen, New York. Using the full Grand Prix circuit, that should be something to see. We thank you for joining us. I know we were a little late getting on the air tonight, but it was definitely worth it. A dominating performance by Dyson Racing, a spectacular evening for the sports cars of the Grand Am. For David Hobbs, John Bizignano, and Sandy Heng, I'm Bob Barsha. Thanks for being with us. Next stop will be Road America. We'll see you Sunday night on Speed Vision News Race Week at 7:30 Eastern. Till then, have a great Independence Day holiday weekend. A safe and sober one. We'll see you again down the road. I'm Bob Barsha. So long from Daytona International Speedway.